You know it's this. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowing like sis. Did it perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the fourth part of What If Deku Enters Rosario Vampire? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of bubbajack on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Izuku walked down the hall with AI asleep in his arms. He came across Benyenma coming out of the kitchen wearing a pink frilly apron of all things. You look cute, Benny-chan. Izukudano, is AI-chan okay? She asked worriedly. She's fine, just emotionally exhausted. Izuku said after a moment. Benyenma nodded. After freeing her parents from that one's grasp, I imagine she is very relieved. Who is that one, Benny-chan? Izuku asked. Benyenma smiled sadly. I imagine you'll find out sooner than later. Oh, when you go into her room, try not to disturb Obasan. Her grandmother. But I thought only her parents. Benyenma was already skipping back into the kitchen. Izuku was confused. If she had a grandmother, why didn't she bring her up and only mentioned her mother and father? Unless it was just someone she called grandmother, but in that case, who is she to AI? He stopped in front of the door Hon-Ana mentioned. Well, looks like I'm about to find out. Pardon the intrusion, he said before he pulled the door open and stepped inside. He suddenly found himself inside of a rather nice cottage. It was twilight outside and orange leaves kept falling from the maple trees outside. Yet Izuku picked up a noise to his right. Looking over, he saw the silhouette of an old woman sitting behind a shoji door, while manually turning a spinning wheel. He placed AI near the woman and turned to go when the rhythmic noise of the spinning wheel suddenly stopped. Then, the voice of an old woman called out to him. You've done something both miraculous and foolhardy, young bodhisattva. Still, might I know your name? Izuku remembered what Benyenma said, but at the same time, he couldn't help but say, Excuse me ma'am, but it's considered rude to ask someone else's name without giving yours first, isn't it? Instead of being miffed, the woman just chuckled. True, true. I have many names, you can call me Yami or Yamana if you prefer. Well, Yamana-san, I'm Midoriya Izuku. Nice to meet you, he bowed politely. Such a well-spoken, polite young man, and so willing to help a young lady he just met too, the woman behind the paper screen chuckled. Yes, I could see why AI-chan would be so easily smitten with you. So selfless. Grandmother, please stop teasing Izuku-kun, AI said back to her usual stoic self as she sat up. Are you alright? Izuku asked, going to his knees and scooting close to AI. I'm fine, AI said as she looked away with a blush staining her face. Thank you, for everything. Izuku did his best to smile, though with his new visage, it came out as more of a rictus leer. It's no problem, but did you really mean it when you said you were going to be my secondary wife? My, AI-chan moves fast when she sees something she wants, Yamana noted. Did you truly mean what you said to my father? That you would look after me in his place? AI asked in return, ignoring her grandmother's jibes in the background. Izuku nodded seriously. Yes. Then yes, you do know that was them giving me away to you, yes? Giving you away as in marriage? Izuku yelled. AI nodded. Yes, she then let a ghost of a smile appear as she said flatly, You may now kiss your bride Izuku-kun. Izuku was at a loss. Everyone, dinner is ready. Benyenma's voice called out. Hon-chan. Could you deliver plates to Allmight-san and Katsuki-san please? Oh, look at that. Dinner's ready, we'd better go. Would you like us to bring you something back, ma'am? Izuku asked Yamana as he all but ran for the door. If you'd be so kind, dearie. I haven't had Beni-chan's food in ages, Yamana called as he all but ran down the hall. She chuckled. It's a good thing he's an undead AI, dear, or your teasing might just kill him. I just smiled a little as she got up and left at a more sedate pace. Once she was gone, Yamana spoke to the open air. So brother dear. What will you do now? Your precious hell girl is lost to you. You have nothing to keep her bound to your service. In the corner of the room, an overly large black and red spider on its thorax with a yellow area that looked like an eye, began to tear down its intricate web in fury. Dinner was held in a grand hall, everyone was seated on the floor given their own tray that was piled high with all manner of food. The main dish was chopped up steak alongside tempura shrimp, miso soup, a small bowl of udon noodles, tofu, and rice. Beni-enma sat at the head of the group with Izuku on her right, a position of honor with Enma and her servants taking up her left flank. On Izuku's left was his mother, Mina, her parents, and his bodyguards, who took up the rear. Beni-enma smiled widely. I must admit, it's been quite a while since I've been able to cook for this many people, so I hope you all enjoy it, Dechi. She then turned to Izuku and looked at him with big pleading eyes. Izukudano, I know you don't have to eat, but I do hope you'll at least try Beni-chan's food. She worked very hard on it for you. Cute looks like that should be illegal, Izuku thought to himself. Of course I'll try it, Beni-chan. If it tastes even half as good as it looks and smells, it's going to be amazing. Thank you, Dechi. The little girl chirped, looking at him in anticipation. Izuku picked up a bit of steak with his chopsticks and plopped it into his mouth, chewing thoughtfully. Wow, this is really good. It might even be better than my mom's katsudon, no offense, Mom. Izuku said quickly. None taken, dear, this is exquisite. Inko praised her hostess and chef, who preened. I'm glad you like it, Ka-san. Everyone who had been eating looked to the girl who said that, and Inko. Inko for her part looked at her son and smiled. Trying to stuck the judge. Isn't that illegal, son? I have done no such thing. Izuku denied. I wouldn't say no if he tried to stuck me, Dechi, Beni-enma added unhelpfully. It wouldn't affect the case at all, and he is cute. Here. Kahlua said, raising her teacup in agreement, causing other girls, like Tyanishia, who had more of a barrel alongside a small mountain of food, Kokoa, and of course Mina, to do the same. Izuku took a breath just so he could sigh. When did my life become a rom-com? The day we met, obviously, Midori, Mina replied unhelpfully. True, that means I can blame almost all of this on you, you know that, right? Izuku retorted. I am okay with that, Mina replied with a cheeky grin, shooting him a victory sign. Suddenly, the doors to the great hall blasted open and a miasma of yoki poured into the room. A man followed in its wake. He was tall with long brown hair with regal features, wearing a purple kimono, and he had the limbs of a spider coming out of his back, with the chitinous armor around his shoulders and acting as arm and leg guards as well. Yokai Atomi's bus driver looked amused, grinning as the man walked into the room. Well, this should be interesting. Father, what is the meaning of this? Beni-enma asked the approaching figure. If you wanted to join us for a meal, you need only ask, there was no need to use your yoki. The man gave the little sparrow a fatherly smile. I'm afraid I'm not here for that, my little sparrow, he then grimaced as he locked eyes with the archlich, who stared back unflinchingly. Your would-be paramour has cost me my servant. The man glanced over to see Enma, his hell girl, trembling, but nothing showed upon her face. Her servants, however, had their faces pressed into the tatami mats in the gajua position. So you're the one, Izuku spoke with vehemence as he took to his feet. You're the one who did this to Ai-chan. The man blinked in surprise. He didn't even think the boy would be able to move with his yoki coating the room. He was holding back just enough not to melt the humans on contact, as a courtesy to his adopted daughter, but the archlich shouldn't be able to move. Unless, what kind of willpower does he possess? He quirked an eyebrow. I am. Do you have any idea who I am, boy? You're Yama, the king of hell, but for some reason you look like Naraku from Inuyasha, the archlich replied. That caused the god of hell to laugh a bit. Do I? I can never really tell what form I'll take to mortals. It's fitting though. My true form can only be seen to the truly dead. Why don't you take a look? I'm good, but you probably only have a face a mother could love anyway, Izuku retorted before he walked over to Benienma and picked up the sheathed katana she had at her left side. I'm borrowing this. Now the hell god let out a bellow of full-blown laughter. You seek to fight me? Has your first death driven you mad, archlich? It's been known to happen to your kind from time to time. Izuku held the katana in his hands, and pulled the bronze-covered sheath off. The blade felt light in his hands as he dropped the sheath on the ground and gripped the blade in both hands. I won't let you take Ai-chan. She's suffered enough. The hell god just raised his arms at his side amused. I fail to see what you can do to me, but I'll be sporting. I'll let you attack me, just once. If you manage to injure me I'll let Ai go. But if you fail, you'll join her in her duties of escorting souls to hell. Fine, but if I win, you'll not only free Ai-chan but her servants as well, and you let her keep whatever powers you gave her as the hell girl. Izuku snapped out. Deal. King Yama replied. I'll give you whatever prep time you require. Attack me when ready. Izuku took a breath he didn't need and began to think. I need to cut him. How do I cut a god? They're divine, so what's the opposite of divinity? Demons, and gods usually bless things. What do demons do? Curse things. With that thought in mind, he used a spell. Bestow curse. Benienma's blade starting at the base near the guard slowly turned an inky black, all the way to the tip. Yet Izuku wasn't done. He, to everyone's surprise, began to sing. Let There Be Fire Again, by Aviators. The song was something, with swelling beats and booming voices. It spoke of a dying age of gods. How a dying corpse, replete with souls, was set free by a night burnt itself and its souls as kindling for a great flame. Mina would look it up later and find out it was an old song from before the age of quirks from a long-gone band called Aviators. As Izuku's sang images sprang into everyone's heads when he spoke of a meeting of fate and the night, Mina's image popped into everyone's minds. He sees me as his knight, no his hero. Mina realized with tears in her eyes. The mantle of chosen passed on. Himself the next and last archlich. The might of the gods is long gone, his throne left to ash, his legacy soon to be mine. The image of Yama appeared in everyone's minds. I'll build on the pyres with my bones. Again Izuku himself appeared. The sword began to burn with black flames as wisps of smoke which briefly took the form of skulls that let out a harrowing cry before dissipating. He's pumping quite a bit of life energy into this spell. Nuri noted. Didn't take him to be a bard. Soul bleed, profane weapon, true strike, end to strife, anathema, expunge the supernatural, last judgment. Izuku intoned one after the other. Here I come, King Yama. How many spells does he know? Mina wondered. The sword glowed brighter and brighter, its flames growing even darker than black, looking more like a rippling void in the air than a color at this point. Then he ran at the god of hell, who just stood there waiting. He stumbled a couple of feet from the judge of hell, but he still managed to swing the blade as he fell past him and slashed him from right shoulder to left hip. When Izuku landed on the floor, his whole body collapsed into a pile of dust, with only his clothes left behind. Midori. Mina rushed to the pile of dust-covered clothes with tears in her eyes, with Inko not far behind her. No. He can't be dead. He can't be. Not again. Riku made his way over and put a hand on both women's shoulders. Don't worry ladies, remember, his phylactery is safe, meaning he'll pop back up in a week or so. He actually managed to cut me, Yama said to himself as he touched his bleeding wound. He then turned to AI and her servants. I release you all from my service and as agreed, you may keep the powers granted to you as my hell girl. He then waved a hand and wispy black smoke dissipated from the forms of Honana, Wanyudo the old man, Ikamanku, and Kikuri. Another wave of his hand, and his wound healed to the point it left a scar on his chest. I'll be keeping the scar, as a reminder not to underestimate archliches. He waved his hand one final time and Izuku, once again whole, was laying on the floor. What just? Izuku didn't get to finish as he was suddenly glomped for the second time that day by a pink-haired alien. His vision was completely obscured by frizzy pink hair. Midori. Mina tried and failed to kill him a second time by squeezing the life out of him. She then pulled him back and glared at him, don't you ever scare me like that again. That goes double for me. Inko added. They both expected him to meekly apologize and beg their forgiveness. Instead he said, no promises. Mom, Mina-chan, I'm an archlich. The last and only archlich. I have a job, a duty to help yokai in trouble. If I feel it's necessary to put my life on the line to do so, I'll do it, he shrugged. I've already died once, so what's a few more times in the line of duty, right? Mina blinked. Midori, are you alright? I'm fine, it's just that makes twice now. That's the second time I've anyway. He got to his feet, and locked eyes with Yama. I won. The god of hell nodded, that you did archlich, that you did. Yama replied, he then snapped his fingers, and a light glow appeared over Izuku for a moment. What was that? Izuku asked. My boon. I don't usually hand it out, but consider it a thank you for reminding this one that just because mortals are mortal, doesn't mean you are weak. Izuku slicked back his white hair. You're welcome. What's the boon do? You'll figure it out soon enough, I'm sure, the deity said with a yawn as he turned to leave. Now if you'll excuse me, I have work to do. I need to find a new hell girl. Then Yama left, the doors slamming shut behind him. All Izuku could think was, what the hell just happened? Midoriya Izuku, he turned when he heard AI address him. He turned just in time for her to slap him in the cheek before she started berating him. What you did was incredibly stupid. Attacking a death god in his own realm. After already going so far to help me. Then to risk your freedom for my sake. AI was crying and smiling before she hugged him. You're an idiot, she buried her head into his shoulder as she mumbled. I'm coming to find I don't dislike idiots like you though, Midoriya Izuku-kun. We're sure you're an archlich and that you don't have a quirk. Mina said as she poked her not-quite boyfriend in the cheek, her eyes narrowed, like one could be called HRM protagonist or something. I'm pretty sure that's the case, Mina-chan, Izuku deadpanned. Mina latched onto his other arm, almost glaring into his face. Only pretty sure, huh? She sighed, well, I guess we'll never know if it's true or not, will we? AI turned and fixed her red eyes on the other girl. It's fine though, right? You said yourself you're the legal wife. True, Mina said with a nod. Mina then felt a bloodlust behind her that made the yoki of Yama feel paltry by comparison. Turning, she saw her father standing up, and cocking his gun, his glasses shining with righteous fatherly fury. Step away from the boy now, he must be eliminated, Gendo said in a robotic tone. Izuku looked at Mina, you know this all came about because you decided to play Empress to a bunch of ghosts, right, Mina-chan? Quiet you, Mina retorted. Kissing him on the cheek before she let him go and stared down her father. Daddy, I love you, I do, but let me tell you right now, I am not going to let you threaten Midori any longer. But princess. Gendo whined. No, daddy. She said with a bit of force before she spoke in a softer tone, I love you but I'm not your princess anymore. She smirked, I've upgraded to empress status and girlfriend status. Eek. Emma squealed, like a teenage girl, her eyes glowing bright pink. When did this happen? Why wasn't I notified so I could be there to take pictures and commemorate the moment? That's exactly why you weren't told, both teens thought at the same time before looking at each other and chuckling. Mina then turned back to her father and continued, "Look Dad, I'm gonna date Midori as soon as he gets his SHT together after this trial." "No offense Midori," Mina added. "None taken, gimme a few days. I really need to redecorate my room once I get home. It's practically AF shrine to All Might that just feels so wrong now," the Archlich said, shuddering. "Sell it on eBay. You'll make bank," Mina assured him before she turned back to her father. "So you need to get over the idea of me dating, at least you know it's Midori. Someone you can trust, someone who just literally died to protect someone else." She then glared at her not-quite boyfriend. "I'm still upset with you about that by the way, so this first date better be good to make up for dying." "Okay, I'll try my best," Izuku replied. "Do or do not, there is no try," Mina quipped. Izuku resisted the urge to roll his eyes. "Yes Grandmaster Mina." Gendo half slumped over in defeat, "But sweetheart, HRM." Mina rolled her eyes. "Dad, it's a part of monster culture. So you're just gonna have to deal, man." Mina then pointed a thumb at herself and smirked. "Besides, I'm the legal wife. That means I'll always be at the top of the cuddle pile, or does that mean I'll always be at the bottom where all the good cuddling is taking place?" Mina pondered, touching a finger to her chin in thought. Food for thought later. Anyway, point is, I'm in charge. "Mina, honey, you've never successfully been in charge of anything," Gendo pointed out. "That's not true," Mina rebutted. "I had a pet hamster. It died from eating itself to death," Gendo remarked. "Well, at least I didn't forget to feed it," Mina retorted. Gendo ran a hand down his face. "My point is, what makes you think you can handle this?" Mina crossed her arms, and grinned. "I have a secret weapon." Her father quirked an eyebrow. "Which is?" "AI-chan, would you like to help me decide who gets in on this HRM thing and who doesn't? You've been around longer than me, so you probably can tell a good egg from a bad one." AI nodded. "Okay Mina-chan. That's called passing the buck," Gendo shouted. "It's called delegating Dad." Mina fired back just as quickly. AI-chan is probably a walking encyclopedia on monsters, so she could probably tell if someone was trying to pull a fast one. "Ahem dechi," Benienma said pointedly, clearing her throat. "Yes, of course you can be in the HRM Beni-chan," Mina said before she could speak. "Agreed," AI said, nodding right after Mina spoke. The small girl flushed. "That is not what I was going to say. It is nice to know, however, thank you." She cleared her throat again, willing her blush down as she tried to speak. "What I was going to say is, I do believe we should proceed with dinner before it gets cold, and afterwards, if he is willing, Izukidano can continue with his private testimony while you two," she looked between the father and daughter, "hash this out in private." "Of course, sorry for the disturbance at dinner," Gendo said, bowing in apology. "To be fair, Yama already disturbed dinner, we were just prolonging it," Mina said before she rubbed the back of her head, and smiled, saying contritely, "But yeah, our bad Beni-chan." Everyone finally went back to their seats, and resumed eating. Izuku sent a private thought to the judge and hostess. "Thanks Beni-chan, that was really starting to make me feel like trash, honestly. I don't want to be the reason Mina-chan and her dad have a bad relationship." "Not a problem, anytime Izukidano, dechi," the red-haired girl thought with an understanding smile. "Will you be ready to continue your testimony after dinner?" Izuku pondered for a moment before coming to a decision. "Yes, I think so." In the room, which he couldn't leave no matter how hard he tried to blow it up, Bakugou Katsuki paced back and forth like a pissed-off bull. "This is all that stupid useless Deku's fault," he raged in his mind. "If he hadn't been so damn weak and useless, then I wouldn't be here in the first place. As if he had any ball at all, he wouldn't have even tried to off himself. Hell, if he had any brains, he would have known he couldn't be a hero without a quirk, but apparently he has neither." Bakugou kicked aside the bowl of gruel they brought him to eat in disgust. F monsters can't even give me good food to eat. F Deku. When I get out of juvie, and I will get out of juvie, I'm gonna find him and turn him into tinder. Then I'll become the #1 hero and surpass All Might. Bakugou nodded to himself, liking the idea more and more, mostly due to the idea of blowing Deku into charred chunks. Bwahaha. Better watch out Deku, cause once I'm done making juvie my bee, I'm coming for you next. All Might, or Toshinori Yagi, sat quietly in his room, eating every last bit of the gruel he could from the bowl he'd been given. He didn't know why, but eating it made him feel better than he had in years, so he made sure to eat every last scrap of it. He then sat back on the futon he'd been provided and contemplated just where it was he went wrong. Did I, in my haste to save as many people as possible with the time I had left, did I, in my haste, fail to actually see someone in need of help? He grimaced at the thought. I wanted to get the sludge villain contained as soon as possible. Young Midoriya had already seen my change and he asked me that question, the question he too had once asked someone. It was the very same question I asked Nana all those years ago. He realized with a pain in his heart twisting like a knife. For he had thought he had been honoring his mentor's words, he never stopped smiling no matter the situation, but he'd forgotten what his life was like before that. Before All Might. The ridicule, the mocking, the pain of being quirkless. In truth, his mentor's greatest gift wasn't telling him to always smile, it was giving him the power to help others smile, and in the end, that's all young Midoriya had wanted to do, and it cost him his life. It was only luck and pure chance that he came back as a monster, a powerful one at that. Nana, I failed you, I'm sorry, Toshinori said. I passed down your legacy, but not the meaning behind it. He cried on his futon, realizing the depths of his failure. Benienma and Izuku talked long into the night, as neither of them actually required sleep. By the time the sun rose, painting the sky with the gray hues of dawn, Izuku had finally finished his tale. It took him 12 hours, 8 of which took place while others slept, but it was finally told. He felt a sense of relief that this was to likely be the last time he'd have to tell this tale in any official capacity. Is that everything? Benienma asked. Once Izuku was quiet for several minutes. Yes, Izuku sounded tired, not that liches could get tired, physically anyway, but a different kind of tired, emotionally tired. Benienma patted her lap. Why don't you lay down for a bit? Court order. If you insist. Izuku replied a little awkwardly as he positioned himself to lay down on her lap. So this is the infamous lap pillow, not bad. I wonder what laying on Mina-chan's or AI's legs would feel like. You can lay on their laps later, right now, relax Dechi, Benienma said, looking out her window at the coming dawn, as she absent-mindedly ran a hand through his hair. Sorry, I didn't mean to broadcast that, Izuku replied. It's fine Dechi, Benienma replied quietly. How long do you think it will take you to come to a decision? Izuku inquired. Smiling down at him, Benienma replied, I should have a judgment by noon, just in time for lunch. Now please rest Dechi. Izuku allowed himself to drift, if not off to sleep, into a trance-like state where he was neither awake nor asleep. In that time, Benienma didn't move, and the sun slowly rose through the sky. It wasn't until Izuku raised his head off her lap that she finally moved, picking up her blade, that still held his powerful curse. According to her, she said, Come, I think it's just about time for brunch. Gather with the others in the grand hall, and we shall put an end to this trial. Izuku's bodyguard sat in front of him with only Tainishia sitting behind him as Allure brought in Bakugou and All Might, placing them on the floor in front of Benienma before choosing to stand not far away from Izuku himself. Today, Mitsuki and Masaru were present, on the opposite side of the room, and Benienma sat straight-backed with her katana by her left side, sheathed on the ground next to her, as she faced forward, practically looking through the accused. I have come to a decision. Toshinori Yagi, also known as All Might. On the charge of manslaughter, I find you not guilty. The hero sighed only for his breath to catch in his throat. However, on the charges of child endangerment and assisted suicide I find you guilty. All Might felt his guts twist like snakes. Your sentence as asked for by the victim, is thus. 1/3 of all your assets will be liquidated and donated to various charities and hospitals across Japan. 3% of which shall be granted to the victim for pain and suffering caused. Additionally, I sentence you to 120 hours community service to be done in 3-hour shifts, she finished with a smug grin on her face. Does she know about One for All? Toshinori asked himself. The smug grin was all the answer he needed. Benienma, I didn't ask for that. Izuku argued. I personally don't need All Might's money. Izukidano, my ruling is final, Benienma spoke in a crisp monotone that would brook no argument, not even from him, not when she was delivering judgment. She then flicked her gaze over to an almost murderous-looking Bakugou Katsuki, whose red eyes were fixed on Izukidano. I suggest you pay attention, Bakugou-san, as your fate is in my hands. TCH, whatever, you little brat, just tell me how long I'm spending in juvie already. The sandy blonde replied dismissively. Juvie. Juvenile detention. Ha 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 ha. Oh no. Oh no 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 no. You aren't going to juvie, Bakugou-san, Benienma said with a malicious gleam in her red eyes. Oh, so you realize that stupid Deku did this himself and are letting me go, huh? Smart. The young judge replied with a deadpan flat, no. You're, then a mischievous grin spread across her face as she motioned Izuku forwards. Why don't you tell him his fate, Izukidano? And me? Izuku said, pointing at himself behind all of his guards. Yes, you, Benienma said with a nod. I think it would be quite cathartic for you, Dechi, so come, come. She urged, motioning him forwards. He got up and made his way over to Benienma, who whispered something in his ear, then he turned to face Bakugou, who glared at him hatefully. To think, we used to be friends, he thought to himself. He then broadcast his telepathy as far as he could. Your sentence, Bakugou Katsuki, is thus. You shall be spending the next 10 months in Tatooine prison. A choking noise came from both Bakugou and his parents when he heard that, and Izuku waited a moment before he continued. Additionally, at the behest of the victim, me, Izuku pointed at himself deliberately with his thumb this time. He wanted Bakugou to know this was all him. You are to be blacklisted from every hero course and the support course, in every school across the country of Japan. You will never be allowed into any hero-related course in Japan, but this won't stop you from actually entering the school, of course, provided your grades are good. You'll just be banned from entering either course by any means. Izuku then smiled a bit vindicatively and gave a slow sarcastic clap. Congratulations, Kachin, your dream is the one thing that's deader than me in this room. Burn! Mina called out. The blonde boy muttered. What was that? Benienma asked. You. Bakugou muttered as he stared at the tatami mats. The accused will speak up, please, Benienma requested. He looked up, with bloody murder burning in his eyes. I'm gonna kill you, Deku. As he ran at him, with explosives going off in his hands. This time, the pro-heroes didn't hesitate. Gunhead laid down suppressive fire and Midnight tore at her costume, releasing her somnambulist quirk. Bakugou just boosted himself above the bone shards and held his breath as the pinkish mist descended on him. But someone got in his way. Two skeletons grabbed either of his arms, and a blast of steam burst forth on contact, clearing the room of Midnight's mist. With Bakugou forced to his knees and unable to make his sweat explode, he watched as someone walked through the steam. It was the pink-haired girl. Raccoon Eyes, as he called her in his mind. She looked pissed as she stalked towards him, what looked like hand soap dripping from her right palm. Oh, what's she gonna do, wash my mouth out, he thought cockily. She slapped him right across the face and screamed. Stay the F away from my boyfriend, you as psycho. Bakugou immediately felt a burning on his face where she'd slapped him, and it wasn't just from the slap itself. Gah! What the F did you do to me, Raccoon Eyes? Less than you actually deserve, and just a taste of what'll happen to you if you come near my Midori again, jackass. The pink-haired girl spat back venomously as she watched her acid eat into the flesh of the cheek on the right side of his face. It would definitely leave a scar in the shape of a handprint. Mina-chan, enough, Izuku said as he came forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. He's not worth staying angry at. He's the reason you died the first time, Izuku. She snapped at him. He's getting off easy. He's getting the punishment that Izukidano asked he receive, Dechi. Benienma replied. Striding across the room, her sword in hand, and she too looked pissed as she glared at Bakugo long and hard before she spoke, a deadly edge to her usually cheerful voice. You have made a mockery of my court, Dechi. She snapped at Bakugo. I find you in contempt of court. Your sentence is to be carried out immediately, with an additional fine of 25,000 yen. You be bird girl. You and raccoon eyes can go F your dash. Bakugo didn't get to finish as Izuku's fist was rammed into his gut. He then, without stopping his momentum, physically lifted him up to his eye level to stare into his shocked red eyes. Bakugo, you can insult me all you want, I don't give a f about me. However, you will not insult my friends. He then tossed the boy, who had gone limp from the blow, to the skeletons. Get him out of here, I'm done with him. They dragged Bakugo away. All Might got up, but not before looking back and saying, I truly am sorry, young Midoriya. I never meant for this to happen. Hindsight is 20/20, huh, All Might? The Archlich said before walking over to the hero, touch his back and saying, Contagion. The blonde skeletal man gulped. Dare I ask what you just inflicted me with? One last bit of sentimentality on my part. Izuku said mysteriously. Tell me, All Might, did you ever watch the pre-Quirk era show Futurama? The man shook his head. No, why? He heard young Midoriya chuckle inside of his head. Well, let's just say that there's an episode with a bad truck stop sandwich and leave it at that. He then told the skeletons, you can take him away now. What did you do? Mina said, poking him teasingly in the side. Is he gonna be stuck with his head in a toilet for the rest of his life? Izuku shook his head. No, nothing like that. Sometimes I hate being sentimental. Come on, Mina-chan, let's go home, Izuku said, reaching for her hand. Mina met him halfway, secretly giddy. He already thought of her house as home. Yeah, let's, Midori. Oh, one more thing. Izuku said last minute. Ai-chan, Beni-chan, do either of you have cell phones? When they shook their heads, Mina was shocked. Well, get them like yesterday and come find me in Chiba pronto. We totally gotta keep this HRM of ours afloat somehow. You got it, Dechi. Beniemna said with a thumbs up and a wink. Of course, said with a nod. I shall see you soon, Izukidano, Mina-chan. Bye guys. Oh wait. Midori, how are we even gonna get home? You teleported us here, do you even have the strength to get us back? Mina asked worriedly. It was then that Riku spoke up, but not before blowing out a plume of smoke. Actually, I have a solution. The solution in question was a yellow bus that had Yokai Academy painted on it in big black letters. Everyone who was leaving clambered onto the bus, that included the Bakugos. Izuku, who just so happened to be sitting across from them in the seat with Mina, leaned across the aisle and said, Mitsuki-bakon, Masarujiji, I hope that what happened to Bakugo doesn't make things awkward between us. The two shared a look. Then Mitsuki spoke. Don't even worry about it, Izuku. In fact, I'm surprised you took it so easy on him. We both know you could have thrown the book at him, sent him away till he was in his mid-30s if you wanted to. True, Izuku nodded, even then he still might have been able to attain a hero's license. I wanted to make sure above all, that didn't happen, not out of contempt, but simply out of the fact that Bakugo doesn't really have the mindset to be a hero. He's far too arrogant and self-serving for the job. Bakugo only cares about beating people up. For him it's not even about helping people. He'd do better in quirk mixed martial arts than as a hero, honestly. That's actually not a bad idea, Masaru muttered. First stop. Mustafu City. Riku called from the front. Izuku turned to his not-quite girlfriend. This my stop. Mina smiled. Yeah, it is. She then leaned in and kissed him on the lips before saying, call me soon, Kay. You owe me an awesome first date, Midori. Alright. He said as he got up mechanically and exited the bus with his mother and the bakugous. He faced his apartment building. He was finally free of the stress of the trial. He could now move on with his own life. If only he knew things were going to get crazier from here on out. Izuku pushed open the door to his room and looked around. Posters, both steel and paper, action figures, a majority of them still in their original packaging, and even his bedsheets were all All Might themed. Yes, his room was like a museum to the number one hero. The only thing that wasn't directly correlating to him were all of his hero analysis books that sat tucked neatly into a shelf. Remembering Mina's suggestion, Izuku began searching up the prices of his unopened action figures on his computer. While reminding himself to change his All Might themed background to something else, maybe a tasteful picture of midnight. He thought as he began looking up the prices of his various items. Some of them, like his limited edition Silver Age All Might action figure, went for quite a bit. I didn't expect to get 50,000 yen just for that, and double that for the Bronze Age figure. He kept a tally of everything on his computer's calculator as he continued his search. Not for the first time, he considered his inability to get tired a boon, as this process took a while. He leaned back in his computer chair and did the math. Taking away the 10% yabe charges for sales, I'm looking at about 106,554.73 yen. He decided to get up and go talk to his mother. A lot had happened in a small PRD of time and they hadn't really had time to clear the air between them. He found her sitting in the living room, nursing a cup of tea, the pot and an empty cup sitting next to her on the coffee table. When she saw him, she smiled. Hey Izuku. Mom, Izuku said with a nod. Can we talk? In response, Inko poured a second cup of tea and patted their overstuffed couch. Izuku readily took up the invitation. Izuku took a sip of tea. If he were still a normal human it likely would have burnt his tongue and throat, but he didn't really feel anything but a mild tingling sensation due to his new status. He then turned to look at his mother who was looking at him in surprise. That didn't burn your mouth? Izuku shook his head, no, just a mild tingling feeling and the echo of a feeling of warmth on my tongue. Wow, you seem like an entirely different person these days, Izuku. You dress differently, you have a girlfriend. Izuku cut her off where the resemblance of a blush formed on his face. Mina-chan and I aren't even dating yet, Mom. Son, she stood up to her gun-toting father who is the chief of police for you. I'm sorry but if you don't date her, you're an idiot, Inko said as she gave him a deadpan look. Fair point, Izuku conceded. I just wanted to talk to you about everything that's happened lately and make sure we're okay. Inko smiled weakly. Well, at first, as you saw, I was distraught. I mean, you killed yourself. Instead of talking to me about any of this that took place over a decade, you just said everything was fine after school day after day until it became too much. By the time she stopped for breath, Inko had tears in her eyes. She wiped them away on the sleeve of her sweater. Do you have any idea how useless that made me feel as a parent as your mother? You should be able to tell me anything, Izuku. No matter how bad it is. So, from now on, can we just be transparent with each other? I don't care how bad or weird it is, I want you to tell me, okay? Izuku nodded, okay Mom. Well, in the spirit of our new transparent relationship, I'd like to tell you that I'm selling all of my All Might memorabilia on eBay, unless a bidding war happens. I'm looking at 106,554 yen and 73 sen. Oh wow, that's great son, Inko smiled happily for her son. Speaking of money, when do you think the money from Benyenma's verdict will come in? The archlich shrugged. I have no idea. Have you given any thought about what you'll do with the money? Inko asked. Buy spell reagents, Izuku said immediately. Spells require vocalization, hand movements, and sometimes specific catalysts to be enacted according to Nwari-san. The more powerful the spell, the more expensive the catalyst is. For example, legends tell that the most powerful healing spell, True Resurrection, requires 500,000 yen in diamonds to pull off. Inko's violet eyes widened upon hearing that. Oh my, that's quite a lot. It's even more complicated than that, I'm afraid, Izuku replied. From what I've looked up, it is magic that reaches the realm of gods. It would cost me a lot of energy to enact. We're talking almost 1,000 human lives worth of energy here, or to put it more simply, I'd need to eat 9 whole packets of sakura seeds just to do it once. Inko blinked. Wow, still you can actually bring the dead back to life. That's something not many can boast about. Izuku nodded. Yes, but it's not something done casually. It costs a lot of energy. Same with the wish spell, which is what I assume my predecessors used to create the monster human barriers, that or they did something even more insane and created mythals. Mythal? Inko questioned. It's a powerful enchantment or ward that usually costs the caster their life to create, Izuku said, pausing when he saw his mother wince. When it's cast over an area, it hides it from view or prevents select people from finding it. If my predecessors were as powerful as I think they were, then they could have done this at the cost of their lives to separate the various monster realms from the human one. That's why monsters became a myth over time and certain places became things of myth, like Mount Ooe and such. That's my theory anyway, Izuku stuttered out when he saw his mother staring at him with her mouth slightly agape. That makes a lot of sense actually, Inko said after a moment. So putting that aside for now, you're going shopping today then? For new things for my room, yes, Izuku nodded. He then saw his mother sending a text. Who are you texting? Namiri-san, Inko replied. She told me to let her know if either of us were leaving the house at all within the next week, and she and Komura-chan would come around to guard us while we were out. You have Midnight's personal cell phone number. Do you have any idea how many men wish they were in your position right now, Mom? Izuku stated, his tone one of awe. Inko let out a little chuckle. She said she'll be by to pick her hubby up in 20 minutes, she then looked at her son. Do you think she's just joking or is she genuinely interested in you? Izuku blinked. Don't know. Good question to ask her while I'm out, all things considered. He then rubbed his mop of messy white hair. Don't you think the age difference is a little weird? Son, you're an immortal undead wizard, Inko pointed out. Age restrictions don't really apply to you. Right? Any advice for my unique situation? Izuku asked. He watched as his mother chewed her bottom lip for a moment before she replied. I think you should be very careful about who you let get close to you, Inko said at last. Some people, like Mina, are genuine, but others will want to date you simply because of what you are, not who you are. Be careful, son. I'd hate for you to have to pay alimony to a gold digger. Izuku took a breath just so he could cough into his hand. Ahem, that's another thing, I'm not exactly sure if my gun still fires correctly, if you take my meaning. I've heard you go to the bathroom on occasion, dear, Inko replied in blunt motherly fashion. Izuku shook his head. No, that's not what I mean. What I mean is after my transformation I might be shooting B-blanks if I fire at all. Inko blushed as she realized what her son was implying. Oh. Should we get that checked, do you think? Probably at some point, if you ever want grandkids, Izuku mumbled, looking away. Well, I certainly wouldn't mind being able to spoil a bunch of grandbabies, so yes, we should probably get that checked, Inko agreed. Izuku finished off his tea and went to the closet where they kept spare boxes and wrapping paper for Christmas. Getting out several flattened boxes and taking them back to his room, he began organizing his all-might memorabilia. Putting everything into its own box, which he filled with packing peanuts before putting the item in. It was simple and in a way therapeutic doing this. It felt like, in a way, that he was letting go of who he used to be, almost like a snake shedding its skin. He was so consumed by his task that he didn't hear the knocking at the door. He did, however, hear his mother's shouting that came when she answered the door. Izuku, dear. See, could you come here please? Curious as to what could have her acting this way, as she was quite used to being around midnight by this point, Izuku came out of his room only to stop when he saw All Might himself standing in the doorway and there was a rat in a suit on his shoulder. All Might Principal Nizu, can I help you? He asked after staring for a moment. Hello young Midoriya, All Might said awkwardly as Nizu waved cheerily from his perch on the number one hero's shoulder. Why hello, how do you do? Nizu said chipperly. Might we come in? I believe Toshinori has something to give to Midoriya-kun and I have something I'd like to discuss with him. Inko looked back at her son. Izuku? It's up to you. Midnight's head appeared beneath All Might's shoulder suddenly. I'm sorry. He followed me here, Midoriya-san. It's fine Midnight, don't worry about it, Izuku replied, won't you all come in? Actually, I was talking to your mother Izuku-chan, she said, sending him a saucy wink, but thanks for letting us in. You're welcome. Izuku honestly didn't know how to take her teasing him sometimes. Their guest sat on the couch and Inko poured tea for them, even All Might as much as she disliked him at the moment. Thank you, Nizu said before taking a sip. Excellently brewed. He complimented before he turned to Izuku, now, before I start Midoriya-kun I believe Toshinori has something for you. Toshinori? The blonde man allowed himself to deflate, and even though it had only been an hour he already looked healthier. He looked less like a walking corpse and more like a human being. His face had filled out some, his eyes didn't look completely sunken into his skull like a corpse, and he hadn't coughed up any blood yet. Thank you Principal San. Toshinori said as he reached into the pocket of his olive drab pants and pulled out an envelope. Before holding it out to the archlich. Here you are, young Midoriya. As ordered by Benienma, 3% of 1/3 of my liquefied assets. Izuku looked down at the envelope. I didn't do this for the money All Might. I know you didn't, my boy. I know you didn't, the number one hero said with a sigh, still, I did some wrong by you and this is, in a small way, making amends. Izuku took a breath so he could sigh. You just don't get it All Might. I asked you if someone with no quirk could be a hero. You said no. But there were so many other things you could have pointed out besides that. My total lack of training and physical conditioning at the time, which in and of itself showed lack of drive to even try to become a hero, or that I could have become a support item hero, and yes I know there are such heroes. Ones that rely on support items because their quirks are highly situational, Izuku said, cutting the blonde off before he could open his mouth. Yet you didn't say any of that. You just said no I shouldn't be a hero. That kinda sucked. No it did SCK. It sucked a whole DMN lot, being told something like that by my idol. I am sorry, All Might said after a moment thinking that was the only thing he could say as he continued. I should have been paying more attention to your demeanor I suppose. Forget about that. Also, for the record, I don't hate you or anything I'm just disappointed, Izuku said glumly. The number one hero slumped slightly upon seeing the young boy look so defeated. Yet he soon perked up and then took the envelope from the pro hero, saying, I'm just taking this because it's court-ordered, that's all. He tore the top off and pulled out the check, staring at it for a moment before asking, All Might? You know this was only supposed to be 3% out of 1/3 of your total assets right? How much is it Izuku? Inko asked. 99 million yen. Inko did her best fish impression for a moment. How much? Izuku reiterated the number, and looked at the symbol of peace, questioningly. Even Midnight who was dressed in a dark pantsuit and glasses and dare he even think it, looked like a CC librarian, was looking at All Might like he was batshit insane. That is 3%. I am very well off young Midoriya more well off than even I realized. Toshinori said, taking his muscled form for a brief moment. Don't you ever go to an ATM like a normal person, or check your bank statements? Midnight asked incredulously. They must have gotten lost in all my fan mail. All Might declared before he shrunk down to normal size, and continued, also I automate all my bills. So I didn't really know how much I had to begin with. Taxes? Inko said. Toshinori coughed. I've got a guy for that. Midnight sighed Air Lily. Wow, must be nice, having so much money you've lost track of how much you actually have. Indeed, Inko agreed with an annoyed sigh as both women sent the number one hero a glare. It was then that Principal Nizu cleared his throat. If you don't mind, I've a proposition for you, Midoriya-kun. Of course, Principal and Nizu. What kind of proposition? Izuku asked as he stared up at the rat, bear thing. Getting a sort of gut feeling, Izuku sent some life energy to his eyes and looked at the principal. What he saw surprised him. In the place of the dog-bear creature he saw a small blue dragon with butterfly wings bursting from its back, a crown of webbed horns coming from its head, and it looked at him in surprise before it chuckled. Fairy dragon, his true sight told him. One pulling a very long drawn-out prank. Shoo, keep this under your hat, okay Midoriya-kun, the slightly childish timbre of the fairy dragon said to him in his head. Izuku wasn't the only one capable of using telepathy it seemed. Fine, but I want answers, Izuku replied. The principal began to speak. I would like to offer you a full scholarship to Yui, Midoriya-kun paid in full. Inko's face lit up. Izuku, isn't this wonderful? You can finally follow your dream of becoming a hero. Yeah, wonderful, he bowed at the waist, thank you sir, but I'm going to have to politely decline. Inko looked at her son like he'd grown a second head. Decline? But Izuku, I thought you wanted to be a hero. Izuku nodded. I did mom before I realized how big a deal being an archlich was. People out there are depending on me, just not as a hero. As something else, something more than a hero. I can't let them down or give them anything less than my absolute best, right? And I can't do that if I'm attending Yui and trying to do archlich stuff at the same time. Principal Nizu smiled. You made a very mature decision, Midoriya-kun. To put others before one's own desires shows wisdom far outstripping your youth. Could I maybe recommend someone else for my scholarship instead, sir? Izuku requested. If that is what you want, I don't see the harm. The ferret Izuku had decided to refer to him as a ferret replied, what is the person's name? Ashido Mina sir, Izuku quickly responded. While I have no longing to become a hero she does. I'll send her an email and let her know as soon as I get back to my office, Nizu promised. Izuku bowed politely. Thank you sir, concentrating as hard as he could on the fairy dragon he sent a private thought. You might want to go meet her in person, you'd be pleasantly surprised. Oh, is that so? Well, now you've piqued my interest, young archlich, thank you, the fairy dragon replied. Also, telepathic communication is about intent, it depends on who you intend to receive your thoughts. So long as you keep that in mind, you shouldn't have too much trouble. Thanks, Izuku replied privately. No problem, the dragon of the Feywild replied. He then spoke aloud. Well, I do believe our business here is concluded. Come Toshinori, we should go. The top hero of Japan raised a single finger asking for just a moment. He then faced the boy he failed and asked. What exactly did you do to me, young Midoriya? It's only been 3 hours, almost 4, and I feel better than I've felt in about 5 years. Even Recovery Girl's quirk couldn't help, so, what did you do? Izuku just smiled before he copied All Might's own gesture and got up before going into his room. He came back out carrying all of his memorabilia. Sign all this stuff, and then I'll tell you, I'll get a better price for it on eBay if it has your signature. Toshinori's eyebrows shot up towards his hairline before he chuckled. Alright, he pulled a Sharpie out of his pants pocket and proceeded to sign everything in sight. Thought you didn't care about money? All Might said conversationally. I didn't want your money, that's not saying I don't need it for things. Magic is complicated and expensive, Izuku replied. In order for some spells to work you need specific reagents like 5 Karat diamonds for example. Midnight whistled. Wow, that's magic is expensive. Yes, with all the money All Might just gave me I'd be able to buy 5, maybe 6, and have some money left over. Are you sure we can't interest you in joining Yui? Heroes get financing if their abilities require certain things to work, you see, Nizu explained. No, I'm good, thanks, Izuku replied. Once All Might finished signing everything he said, I infected you with a symbiotic worm colony that is in the midst of giving your body a total tune-up. Muscles, memory, flexibility, strength, all of it. Should be peak human if not slightly above that by the time they're done. Just leave them there and let them do their thing. They should be done giving you a full workup in 24 hours. Toshinori's jaw dropped and he just stared at Izuku for a moment. Then he snapped his jaw shut with a snap. I see, thank you very much, young Midoriya. I honestly feel as if I'm in your debt. No, you're not. As I didn't do this for you, I was thinking of the people. You're the symbol of peace. Regardless of how I feel personally, symbols are powerful things. Once word gets out that I helped you, the hate towards me by the quirk populace might lessen somewhat. He then looked to the heroine. Ready to go, Midnight? The older woman smiled impishly. I've asked you to call me Namuri when I'm off duty, Izuku, you know that. Are you ready to go, Kayama-san? Izuku replied. His tone was neutral and respectful. Sure. She grabbed her black leather purse that she discreetly hid in the arm of the couch and smiled at Inko. See ya soon, Inko. Have fun, you 2 foot, the Midoriya matriarch replied with a smile and a cheery wave before she turned to All Might and Principal Nizu and gave them a deadpan glare. Get out of my apartment. I put up with you because my son allowed it, but I personally want nothing to do with you, All Might. My son died, however, briefly because of your words. I know you were being honest, but as they say, sometimes the truth hurts, and it did hurt my son right now. I can't even begin to forgive you for that. I see. I completely understand, Midoriya-san. Toshinori bowed low in apology. Nizu laughed. For someone who doesn't want to be a hero or even a politician, as far as I know, he's got innate skill at both. He tapped the number 1 hero on the shoulder. Come, my friend, it's time we made our way to Chiba and had a talk with Ishido-chan. The moment Izuku and Namuri exited the building, they were surrounded by a dozen undead. 10 were Izuku's personal bodyguards, which were led by Takahiro, and the remaining 2 were Namuri's own bodyguards. Izuku could tell which was which immediately, as Midnights had a number of HNDCFFs hanging from their rib cages. Seeing his curious gaze, the heroine explained, they help me with hero work by handcuffing villains after I knock them out with my quirk. Saito and Ren are the most useful men I've met in a long time. She sent Izuku a wink, you notwithstanding, of course. Thank you, Kayama-san. Can I ask you a semi-serious question? The older woman shot him a sideways glance. Shoot. Are you actually interested in me, or do you just like teasing me? Izuku said point blank, not bothering to beat around the bush. Much to his surprise, she didn't answer right away in a teasing tone like he expected, but looked up at the sky. Well, I think Midoriya-kun is cute in a way. His mannerisms show, despite being undead, which some would find off-putting, plus combined with the way he dresses, one would think he's a delinquent. Yet his personality completely destroys that notion the moment he opens his mouth. He stutters and acts shy. Yet at the same time, when the chips are down and someone is in danger, he is willing to step up and fight. Even against a god. That was really cool, by the way, the pro-hero complimented. So to answer your question, yes, I could certainly see myself dating Midoriya-kun. Is he okay with dating me though? I am quite a bit older than him, immortal or not. She huffed angrily and muttered, some have even called me a Christmas cake. I don't really care about your age. Izuku sputtered out, I think you look pretty regardless, and besides, as you pointed out, I'm immortal, so it doesn't really matter to me. Also, who doesn't like cake? The woman burst out into laughter at that. Ha ha ha. Are you trying to get lucky today, Izu-chan? She asked, fluttering her eyes at him sultrily. And no. I mean, to be honest, I'd be an idiot to turn you down, but we haven't even gone on a date yet and I promised Mina first and, he went into rapid mumble mode. The pro gently embraced him. Easy Izuku, easy, I was just teasing. I know nothing like that is going to happen for quite a while yet, she said gently as she stroked his hair, adding, I also know DMN well Mina-chan is at the head of the pecking order. Izuku's thoughts stopped going a mile a minute. Sorry, you just caught me by surprise. Namiri laughed again, I could tell. So, where are we going? He pointed down an alleyway, we're gonna cut through here, get to the mall on Gangnam Street and go shopping for clothes, and I need to remodel my room. So you need to go full punk goth in both attire and decor basically? The heroine nodded. I can help with that. Is that what this is? He asked, looking down at his jacket and other clothing. I just thought it looked rebellious and cool. Namiri couldn't remember the last time she laughed so much. Yes, that's what it's called, you pull it off nicely too. Thanks, he replied as they stepped out of the alleyway onto Gangnam Street. It was more of a thoroughfare than a street, and to the local quirked populace it was called Monster Way. It was called that because all of these shops were run by monsters. The whole street was lined with all manner of shops and cafes, some of which only had seating outside on wrought iron tables and chairs with heaters for the cold, and umbrellas for the hot days of summer. As always, it was bustling with people, going to and fro. From a grocer getting mobbed by a group of lamia who loved their eggs, to a minotaur who was selling wooden furniture, there was even a shop run by a group of dwarves that sold jewelry that went by Evaldi and Sons. There were other places too. A tailor's run by a group of Aranch, called spinnerets. Izuku, being the outcast that he was before his transformation, found solace in this place. He treated the monsters kindly, asked various questions about their culture and crafts, and helped out when and where he could. This often ended up getting him free Sundays at the Igloo ice cream parlor that was run by a group of Yukiana. Today was different though, for as he walked down the street flanked by his undead, the various monsters stopped whatever they were doing and fell to a knee in subservience, or if they were incapable of that, into a low bow. Izuku just stared as the various monsters bowed to him like he was a king or a demigod of some kind. He projected his telepathy to everyone in range. Thank you everyone. Please go about your business. Everyone got up and went back to what they were doing, but they moved slower now, more carefully, and it wasn't nearly as loud as it was before Izuku had arrived. Everyone had at least one eye on him, watching, waiting to see what he was going to do. Might as well get on with my own business, so thinking, he made his first stop at the Cobalt First National Bank, which was run by kobolds of all things. Funnily enough, kobolds ran all manner of businesses in the monster world, including the banks. The bank was a large marble structure, dome-topped, and it had an iron statue of no less than 7 skeletal wizards raising knotted staffs into the air, with water pooling around it, forming a water fountain. He always avoided the metal statue, finding it odd, only now did he realize it was a memorial for the fallen archliches. He nodded respectfully to the statue as he passed it and entered the building through the revolving glass door, but not before ordering his guards to wait outside. The interior was covered in marble just like the exterior, with cubicles made of stone lining the area. Well, from what Polchan has told me, kobolds like tunnels, so maybe this is as close as they can come to simulating their natural environment. Izuku thought to himself as he walked up to the counter where a kobold female, who wasn't one of the few monsters he was familiar with, was filing her nails. Hello, welcome to Cobalt First National. How may I help you? Yes, hello, is Polt available? Izuku inquired. Hearing the voice inside of her head, the woman looked up, went slack-jawed upon seeing Izuku, bowed so fast she smacked her head on the granite countertop. She rose, with a trickle of blood coming from her head, seemingly not noticing her wound. She replied in an awestruck tone. Archlich-sama. Why, you're here. How may I assist you? Can you go get Teller Polt, please? She manages my account. Izuku politely requested. Polt? Polt Windguard? The kobold questioned. Yes, that's her, the Archlich affirmed. Why would Archlich-sama want to see her? She only handles the most minor of accounts because she's new. Plus she's only a part-timer because she also helps out at her parents' sports club, she thought to herself even as she smiled and said, wait right here and I'll go see if she's available, Archlich-sama. One moment, before you go, Izuku reached forward with a single finger and a small green spark burst forth from his finger, closing the wound and burning away the blood that trickled down the woman's face. The kobold blinked. Ah, thank you Archlich-sama, I didn't even notice. I'll be back shortly with Teller Polt. Just a moment please. Once the woman walked away, a sachet in her strut which Izuku didn't notice because Namuri put a hand on his shoulder and said, wow, you really are a big deal huh? 2 guests so I'm really not used to it. I don't suppose you can give me any pointers on how to deal with this. Being a famous hero and all. Izuku asked hopefully. Namuri tapped her chin. Well, I'm famous, yeah, but this is next level fame. This is closer to fanatic religious devotion than fame from what I've seen of it. Like if you asked the monsters would try to take over the world in your name, she then paused before she deadpanned, I didn't just give you a really dumb idea did I? And no, I have no plans of conquering the world at the moment I'll keep it in my back pocket for a rainy day when I'm bored. It's what Alexander the Great did. Namuri blinked then laughed. You've got a pretty good sense of humor Izuku-kun. Little dark, but I don't hate that. Archlich-sama wants to see me. Polt's voice was unmistakable. That's what I said so get yourself out there and look presentable you flea-ridden mongrel. The woman at the front desk snapped waspishly. Why yes ma'am. A sudden hard footfall was heard and Polt was seen running down the hall all but jogging in her dark green pantsuit. Stop running you idiot. At least try and look professional. The buxom blonde at the front desk yelled after her. Yes. She all but slid into a stop and goza position with her head on the floor in front of Izuku. Why you asked to see me Archlich-sama? Polt-san could you get up off the floor please? Izuku requested, feeling awkward. Huh. But that sounded like, she looked up suddenly. Izuku-tan. You're Archlich-sama. Yo. He said with an awkward little wave. Suddenly, Polt was on her feet with both her hands on Izuku's shoulders and a burning intensity was in her eyes. For Izuku-tan to be Archlich-sama that means Izuku-tan had to die. Izuku-tan what happened? Were you hit by a bus, did that bakugou guy finally blast you one too many times, did you drown in a river? Did you fall out of a tree trying to save a cat? Vile creatures that they are, I could still see you trying to save one. As she ranted and raved she kept shaking him. I think, Namuri said as she put her hand on Polt's shoulder, that we should move this discussion to your office. Polt looked around seeing people staring. Agreed, please follow me. Polt's office, if it could be called that, was formerly the room where the physical copies of all records were stored. It was cluttered and cramped. Dominating the room was a small rickety desk that was piled high with paperwork. The room that was already small was made even smaller by the metal cabinets that took over a majority of the room and on what little space that wasn't taken over by files and paperwork. There was an old computer, like Windows 95 old. Something that should be in a museum. Sitting down in a chair that was likely fished out of a dumpster, or from a curbside, Izuku sat down on one side of the desk while Polt sat in a rocking chair that was held together by duct tape. She fixed her blue eyes on Izuku and said, explain. Polt-chan is scary when she's angry, Izuku noted this was the first time he'd ever seen her upset, her tail laying down limp. Yet fur fluffed up in obvious agitation. Well, he told her the whole story once he got to the part about actually jumping off his school roof, he was promptly hit in the face with a metal stapler. He didn't feel it. Idiot. She yelled at him. She then chucked a coffee mug full of pens at him, it broke on his skull. He didn't feel that either. Moron. Lastly she picked up her museum-worthy computer and chucked it at his head. Ouch, I actually felt that a little. It's probably just the fire, stupid boy, Polt huffed. I can't believe you did that. Me? You just hit me with a stapler, a coffee mug, and you're as old as dirt computer. Izuku accused. You deserved it. Holt fired back her tail, now standing straight up. Instead of calling me or anyone else you do something stupid. I suppose, Izuku admitted. Crossing her arms, Holt glared and said, idiot. Don't you even remember? You're the reason I got this job. Izuku looked lost for a moment, then it clicked. Oh, yeah. Now I remember. He'd been coming to Monster Alley for a while now and was sweeping out front of Cobalt when a dejected Holt walked out, holding open the door for a much older kobold woman who said, not unkindly, I'm sorry dear, we're just full up right now, and even if we weren't, you don't know a thing about banking, which you yourself admit. So we'd have to start you out with small accounts you couldn't possibly mess up. To get your feet wet, so to speak. I understand, thank you ma'am, it's just my family's business is struggling. They need whatever money they can get. The elderly kobold nodded. I understand, you can bring pamphlets into the lobby to advertise if you wish. She then noticed Izuku and smiled. They'd bumped into each other before. Izuku-chan, always working so hard as usual, I see. She opened up her purse and handed him a 1,000 yen note. He'd tried refusing her multiple times before, but she was insistent, so he'd learned just to accept her kindness. The young man bowed. Thank you Kenna-abakan, I have a question about banks or banking. The elderly Kenna indulged him. Oh, what is it dearie? How old does someone have to be to open an account at your bank? Kenna blinked. If you can get your mother's permission you could open one right now. Izuku nodded. So if I opened an account could Wunshin look after it for me? He questioned, nodding to Holt, whose name at the time he didn't know. Kenna, the bank director, blinked, then let out a bark of laughter. That sounded like a lot of yipping. If there was one thing kobolds respected, it was cleverness, and Izuku was clever. Alright, I don't see the problem with that, do you Holt-chan? And no ma'am. Holt said, just staring at this small human in awe. Kenna nodded. You can start tomorrow. Your first task will be making sure Izuku-chan and his mother open their account correctly. If you can do that, well, we'll see. She walked to her car, a red Jaguar, with a little wave, leaving the two alone. Do you have a big sister, Izuku-tan? Holt asked her tail, a blur of motion behind her. No, Izuku replied, moments before he was pulled into a hug. Well, you do now. Oh. Sorry Wunshin. Izuku replied sheepishly. Sorry he says after he already jumped off the DMN roof instead of calling his big sister. Humph. Holt turned away in a huff, refusing to look at him. I really F up here, didn't I? Izuku said to Nomuri specifically. Nomuri nodded. Izuku took a breath so he could sigh. It was something he found himself doing a lot. I'll be right back, please wait here. The young undead left the room, leaving the two women alone. Holt broke the awkward silence first. So, who are you? Besides being midnight, I mean. The pro-heroine shrugged casually. Just one of the mistresses, I guess. Really? He moves fast. Holt said, mostly to herself. Nomuri chuckled a little. It has more to do with random hijinks than anything. He's too helpful and kind by half. True, he should have called me stupid boy, she sighed heatedly. Don't be so HRD on him, Nomuri advised. He just got done with the trial that punished the people who put him in that position earlier today. All Might and Bakugou Katsuki, the kobold half growled to herself, wanting more than anything to sink her claws into Bakugou's throat at the moment. The pro-heroine nodded. The very same. All Might's bank account took a hit, and Bakugou, well, he's where he needs to be. Holt nodded fiercely a couple of times. Good. Izuku came back shortly afterwards carrying a bag of seeds in his hands. Right, with this I should be able to do what I need, no problem. I didn't expect her to just give it to me though. Izuku-tan, Holt said flatly, you're an archlich. We'd go to war against humanity if you ordered it. So don't be surprised if monsters just give you things, but what are the seeds for? Well, I don't want that, Izuku said as he consumed the entire bag of seeds in one go. As for what the seeds are for, he pointed his hand at either wall and said, enlarge. The walls on either side expanded by twice the length. He then proceeded to shove the cabinets up against the newly enlarged walls. Not done, he pointed at the wall directly behind her and said, permanent image. Nothing happened at first, then an open window appeared that had sunlight streaming through it, along with a nice breeze that carried the scent of fresh rain and sunlight that she could feel beginning to warm her fur. Izuku then cast another spell. Permanency. The enlargement spell was now permanent. He then walked around to her chair and began mumbling, repair, over and over until it no longer required duct tape to be held together. He then stood up and said, sorry, but I don't think I can do anything about your desk HH. He was glommed by the kobold girl who pulled him to her. Izuku-tan is so kind. She proceeded to nuzzle her nose into his cheek, a form of affection among kobolds. I have a window now and everything. She'd graduated from nuzzling to peppering his cheek with light kisses and rubbing her cheek against his every now and again. Why, you're welcome, Poltwanchan, Izuku said nervously. She'd never acted like this before, so he wasn't sure what this was all about. Namuri for her part giggled at the display unless she was mistaken, and she might well be, as she didn't know much about monster culture, much less individual monster culture, but she was pretty sure Izuku just bagged another one by being all nice. She could be wrong though, so she decided to hold her tongue and see how things played out over time. Hearing herself get called Wanchan snapped Polt out of her cuddling mode. She coughed and let Izuku go. Sorry about that, I was just excited about having an actual office, and yeah. So thanks, Izutan. You're welcome, Polt. Right, Polt slapped her cheeks, time to get serious. She then smiled and leaned over her desk as she asked professionally, how may I help you today, valued customer? It's a little late for that, both Izuku and Namuri thought to themselves, though they didn't say anything. Instead, Izuku pulled the check All Might gave him out of his pants pocket and slid it across the desk and said, I'd like to make a rather large deposit, please. Okay, let's see what we've got here. Polt picked up the check and looked at it. In the distance the sound of glass breaking could be heard the moment she looked at the check, and her smile seemed to freeze on her face as she said, what the hell is with this obscenely huge number, Izuku-tan? That's the settlement money All Might had to pay me. Polt whistled. DMN, that's a lot of zeros. Why, you'll have to excuse me. I don't think I'm authorized to handle this much money. I'll need to go speak with the manager. Polt got up and left her new enlarged office. Izuku turned to Namuri. Did I break her? Before or after you gave her the check? The pro replied with a smirk. I'm almost sure she wouldn't mind being broken by you though, hubby. Izuku's mind blanked out at the thought of dating Polt. Yeah, right, she's probably too busy to even think of dating anyone. Even if she wasn't, it would be weird, right? Would she just be doing it because I'm an archlich now, or? Arg, this is too confusing to think about right now. So he decided not to think about it right now. You just like to stir up trouble, don't you, Namuri? He accused. She had the audacity to look offended, putting one hand on her breastbone as she used the other to point at herself. Me? Cause trouble? Never. Why, I just point out connections where I see them. It's clear Polt-chan wants to play wrestling with you, she smirked. I'm sure you'll both get all hot and sweaty with all manner of bodily fluids getting everywhere during the act. Especially once you pin her down and force her to submit. Stop that, Izuku deadpanned. The SHT-eating grin never left her face as she asked innocently. Stop what? The double entendre, please stop, Izuku asked. Whether we will or we won't is very much up in the air at the moment, the archlich replied, your word choice isn't helping. Namuri raised an eyebrow. So the fur and the tail doesn't bother you? No more than Mina being pink with horns or you being more than twice my current age, Izuku said with a shrug. The heroine said as she stared up at the ceiling. Izuku sighed, I feel I'm going to regret asking this, but what is it? I'm just wondering if you can use that enlarge spell on yourself, or more specifically a certain part of your anatomy. And there's that regret I knew I'd be feeling. Izuku said in faux cheer. Nemuri cocked her head to the side. But can you though? Izuku met her curious gaze with a deadpan one. Probably, but you'll forgive me if I'm in no hurry to find out. Nemuri shook her head. No. I don't mean for you to use it on yourself. I doubt a young virile boy like yourself needs anything like that, Nemuri said with a lascivious grin on her face. No, I was wondering if you could enchant objects with the spell temporarily. So like Viagra? Izuku questioned. Only better. Think about it, you buy placebo pills, enchant them to act for an hour. Upon consumption, and bam. She grinned, you've got yourself a product that outdoes the competition. She meant it as a joke, but much to her surprise Izuku was actually thinking it over. That could actually work. Nemuri laughed, you're actually considering it. If there's one thing I'm certain of, it's that people will always consider themselves inadequate to others due to something they lack. Izuku rubbed his arm uncomfortably as he thought about his own feelings of inadequacy when compared to others. Nemuri quickly caught on to what he was referring to and got up and put her hands on his shoulders. Hey, just because you don't have a quirk doesn't make you any less of a man. If anything, the fact you went so long still wanting to be a hero despite not having one is admirable. I'm not saying this to try and get you to join Yui either, I'm just saying how I see it. You're 10 times the man All-Might or Bakugou could ever be. Izuku. I thanks Nemuri. She winked at him with her sky-blue eyes. No problem, and if you want to prove that manliness of yours, she sat on the desk with her legs spread invitingly, we could have a bit of fun before Polchan comes back. We're not having SEC on Polchan's desk. Nemuri, Izuku deadpanned. Now get up please. She laughed again, and stood up, I knew you'd turn me down. You've got some willpower to do so, Izuku-an. She raised an eyebrow again as she questioned knowingly, also, Polchan. The boy didn't get a chance to reply as the door suddenly opened and Kana-san, the kindly director who ran the bank, entered the room with Polt, following on her heels. She looked around, seeing how spacious the room now was. Before her eyes landed on Izuku, she bowed at the waist. Izukudano. Izuku bowed in return. Kano Basin. How are you doing? Well, thank you. I must say when I heard you were the Archlich from Polchan I didn't believe it at first, then she showed me the check and well, I'm not sure Polchan has enough experience to handle an account this large. Not on top of all the other accounts she manages. Izuku tapped his chin for a moment. Would it be possible for her to only handle my account? Izuku asked after a moment's thought. Why you want me? Polt pointed at herself incredulously, her voice coming out like she'd consumed a tank of helium. To be your personal account manager? Yes. Is that a big deal? The young Archlich inquired. Kanna just laughed. Izukudano, when it comes to personal managers the true prestige comes from whose accounts you manage. I myself manage the accounts of 3 dragons who keep their hoards with us and deign to part with 0.01% of their treasure every bicennial, or 20 years if you prefer, in return for using their magics to protect our bank from thievery. If Polchan were to go from managing the few human accounts we have to the personal account of the Archlich, well I suppose that would unseat Katsura and make Polchan my personal protege. Really? Polt had tears of joy in her eyes as her tail wagged uncontrollably. That's fine, Izuku replied. I only really trust Polt with my money also, by Katsura-san would she happen to be the blonde out front? Kanna nodded. Yes, that's her, as my protege it's her job to act as greeter to people in the bank. I see, Izuku said. Hearing his tone Kanna sighed, what did she do, Izukudano? This time Nemuri spoke up. She was a bit more into filing her nails than greeting us when we first arrived. Once she realized who Izuku was she shaped right up though. Kanna's tail fell flat behind her. That girl, I'm sorry Izukudano, she bowed an apology before addressing the other woman in the room, Pro-Hero Midnight unless I missed my guess. That's me, I'm just acting as Izuku's guard while he goes shopping. Though I'm actually considering transferring some of my assets here as well, the more I hear about this place the more I like it. I mean magic to protect from thievery. That would likely stop any quirk, and I'd like to not worry about my own money being stolen. Indeed, nothing short of an archlich, ancient vampire, or Ithlid could get past dragon magics, and the ancient vampires and Ithlids are extinct. Nemuri nudged Izuku playfully. Not planning on robbing banks anytime soon, are you, Izuku-an? No, it's far down on my agenda. I'm far too busy between studying the occult and planning the weekly org. Izuku's tone was so flat, it was two-dimensional by that point. Oh, an org. I can help with planning that. Midnight volunteered excitedly. Can I come? This job is really stressful, Holt said with tears in her eyes. Izuku sighed and ran a hand down his face. Kami-sama, I'd ask you to kill me, but well, it's a little late for that. They left the bank shortly after that, with Polt now happily apprenticed under Kana-san with promises to get together soon and Polt's final words of warning ringing in Izuku's head. If you thought I was mad, wait till Graham-chan gets her hands on you. So with trepidation in his thoughts he pushed open the door to Ivaldi and Sons, wincing when the little bell tinkled announcing his arrival. Glass cases were all over the shop filled with all manner of jewelry, loose stones, and worked stones into the shape of tasteful statues. Even wooden figurines in the shape of animals with their eyes set with precious gemstones. Just a moment and I'll be right with ya, A voice called from the back. Take your time, Brock-san, Izuku called in reply. Seconds later a loud clang was heard. Moments later there was the sound of two pairs of running feet heading towards the front of the shop. Seconds later a cloth curtain was pushed aside and a dwarf with his dark brown beard done up in twisting plaits and a busty short girl with a pair of cobalt gray ears sticking up on her head and a matching bushy tail came bustling out of the back room. Both were wearing thick leather smithing aprons. They both stared for a moment and then the girl spoke up, uncertainly, Izuku? Yo Sasara. How've you been? Izuku greeted her awkwardly. In response, a crisp knife came flying at his head from the pockets of her apron. It bounced off his leathery hide, but before he could open his mouth to say anything the half-dwarf maiden had flung herself over the glass counter and threw all of her 4'3"129 cm 176'80 kg self at him. She had all the impact of a pool flow atai. Izuku easily caught her in his arms and held her there even as she punched him repeatedly and ineffectually in the face. While yelling, "Idiot! Stupid! Dumbass! Moron! Izuku, doesn't that hurt?" Nemuri asked as she punched him in the eye over and over again. "No, I can't even feel it honestly," he replied while turning to look at the pro-heroine before addressing the half-dwarven maiden in his arms. "Sasara-san. Dummy. Nimrod. Asinine nincompoop." Deciding he'd had enough of her yelling, he paralyzed her since she was in his arms. She went stiff immediately. "There. Now I'm fairly certain you can still hear me, Sasara-san. So now, I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. Did I do something stupid? Yes. Do I deserve to be berated for it? Certainly. However, I will only put up with so much before I get annoyed. I do hope we understand each other. I'm going to unparalyze you now. Remove curse." She went limp in his arms, with her own arms wrapped around his neck, but she glared up at him, mumbling, "You're still an idiot." Fair enough, Izuku had no problem accepting he did something dumb. It was dumb, what he did. The dumbest part? Not realizing until after he did it that he had people who actually gave a DMN about him besides his mother like Polt and Sasara seemed to. "Izuku lad, you think you could put ma daughter down?" The thick broth of Brock called jovially as he lit his pipe. "Pa!" Sasara complained, flushing as Izuku hurriedly set her on her feet. Brock waved his pipe at her, "Don't you pa, me lass. What would your poor mother think if she saw you in a boy's arms like that? Pa Mom went to visit Gran for a week, she's not dead, Sasara said flatly. As for how she'd react, she'd probably say she told you so and then demand you pay her the money from some stupid bet you two have going on about my love life that I don't know about. We would never do that, sweetheart, Brock said nervously before he took a puff on his pipe. Anyway lad, since you're an archlich and all, I'm assuming you're here for spell reagents and the like. Yes, Brock-san, sir, Izuku said, approaching the counter. The dwarf didn't even ask what he wanted, he just went over to his best largest diamonds and started putting them in a leather bag. Once he put the dozenth one on, he put it on a scale. It weighed 48 carats. How much do I owe you? Izuku asked, dreading the answer. Free, oh, charge. Come on back once you need more and I'll refill the bag, yeah. Brock told him. Izuku shook his head. I can't and won't accept that, Brock. I have money, I should be able to pay for most of those. Lad, Brock said, taking a puff off his pipe. You done seem to understand your position. So let me enlighten ya a bit. You're a Fukin archlich. That means we are to provide whatever we can ta aid ya in any way we can. From diamonds, ta cloth, to corpses fair your experiments. In the past it was considered a high honor to be chosen fair an archlich's experiments, whether the person in question was alive or not. In return for loyal service, archliches protected the people via offering guidance, helped grow food and solved clan disputes like arguments of succession and land borders, usually by contacting the recently deceased. If you must, lad, consider this a hey sasa, what's that thing humans do at their shrines to their gods again? Tithing, dad. Sasara called from the back room. That. Call it tithing. Besides, if these diamonds'll keep people alive, then I'm fine with it. Especially since one of those people you end up savon might just be me daughter, seeing as she graduates from UE in about a year, he pushed the leather satchel across the counter. Go on, take it, lad. Izuku put a hand on the bag for a moment, in silent contemplation, before saying, I propose we barter, Brock-san. Barter, eh? What you got in mind, your holiness? Brock said, leaning on the counter with one arm. Sasara, could you come out here, and bring your blades please? Izuku called. Sure thing. She called back, coming back out with no less than 12 swords in her arms. She had 4 katana, 3 great swords, a halberd, and a spear. She was also wearing her hero attire, which consisted of a white open-topped kimono that showed off her cleavage and ended around her shoulders, a red and blue obi that kept it closed, black tights and bronze greaves on her legs, and thick bangles on her arms. Now Sasara, if I recall correctly, you inherited a quirk from your mother that your grandfather had. One that lets you telekinetically extend the range of bladed weaponry, correct? Yep, but it doesn't add extra weight to the weapon, so regardless of the distance a knife will still only do so much damage. If I want to hack through bone, I'd need something thick like a cleaver, so that's why I carry multiple weapons on me in combat. So I have something for every situation. One of your katanas please, Izuku requested. Sasara didn't even blink. She took one out of its sheath that she had pressed into her obi and flipped it over so it was facing Izuku, handle first. He took it and examined it for a moment. This is your work if I'm not mistaken, Brock-san. Oh, course it is. Brock said with pride. Did you think I'd send ma baby girl out there with anyone else's potentially shoddy craftsmanship? Pa. Stop embarrassing me. Sasara said. Before she took a swing at her old man, who just leaned back to avoid the blow. You're a bit too young yet to be talking, you're old man in a scrap yet, lass. Bury you upside down in a planter if and you keep it up, Sasara muttered under breath. Before she asked, Izuku, what you doin', Zuzu? Since I don't feel right just taking your dad's things, I've decided to barter for them. This is how I intend to do it. Holding the blade flat in front of him, he ran his hand over it, causing a red magic circle to appear just behind his hand, following him slowly as he said, enchant weapon, fireball. The blade took on a reddish hue where the magic circle passed it by, and after Izuku was finished from the wavy hamon line to its edge it had golden-orange hue like a sunset, while the back edge was as red as a ruby, or a cooked lobster shell. He then flipped it back over and presented it to Sasara hilt first. She dropped all the other weapons she was holding and reverently reached out and took the blade. "It's appealing, Zuzu." He then ran a hand down it again and said, "Enchant weapon, detect evil." This time a golden magic circle enveloped the blade, it left behind golden filigree on the weapon in the form of multiple interconnected sunbursts. "It needs a name, lass," Brock said, "so fine a blade deserves one." "Amaterasu," Sasara decided. "I'll name it Amaterasu." "Sun goddess I." Brock asked, for he was a born monster while his wife was a first-gen kobold and clung to her human beliefs. When his daughter nodded, he said, "A good name." Sasara silently agreed as she reverently returned the blade to its sheath. Then she reached above her head, grabbed Izuku's collar, and pulled him down so she could smooch him, and smooch him she did so long that her father had to clear his throat after a moment or two. What was that for?" Izuku asked in a daze after a moment. "That was a thank you for the sword, and I've been wanting to do that for a while now, and you just gave me a very good reason to do it," the half-dwarven maiden replied. "I see, so sword making makes you corny, good to know," Izuku said. Sasara punched him in the arm. It does not. It's probably a KNK she picked up from her mother, though for her it's the enchanting of swords," Brock stage whispered. "I swear. I'll bury ya in a planter upside down, I swear I will," she said, slipping into her own dwarvish broth due to becoming upset. Calm down," Izuku placated, getting between the two before a fight could break out. "It's fine, really, I'm never going to be upset over being kissed by a pretty girl." Sasara's gray fluffy tail wrapped around her as she flushed. "Pretty, you really think so?" "Of course you're pretty. You own a mirror, right?" Izuku asked for clarification. In response, Sasara took a half-hearted swing at him. "Of course I do, dummy. I just don't think I'm very feminine." "I disagree." The kobold dwarf rolled her eyes. "Yes, I can only imagine why you think I look feminine." She cupped her arms under her bust, causing them to jiggle. "It has nothing to do with my bub, right?" He glanced at Brock, who was just smoking his pipe, looking amused as he watched the scene play out. "While those are, certainly nice, it wasn't what I was talking about." The swordswoman gave him a challenging glare. "Oh. What then? Remember when I'd watch you practice with your sword after school sometimes?" Sasara nodded. Of course she remembered. Izuku was always underfoot asking questions about her quirk or helping Pa or Ma with the shop in any way he could, more often than not prattling her ear off asking questions about Yui once she got in. He was cute in a lot of ways. At first it was like having a little brother. Then as time passed he showed her more and more of his notebooks and how he still had the determination to become a hero despite being quirkless. She saw him less as a little brother and more as a man. She didn't know how to tell him, and there were a lot of reasons why she didn't. The primary one was, she knew she would likely far outlive him, being of dwarven BLD. She would outlive him by centuries, for if not 5. She couldn't bear that, so she buried her feelings deep, simply enjoying the days she could with him. He didn't show up for a week and she was just about to go out looking for him when he walked into the shop today as an undead immortal archlich. Now who's going to outlive who? She wondered silently. "Well, I always thought when I saw you doing that you were dancing. It was always amazing to watch, honestly. You practically floated sometimes." She grinned at him happily, her ears twitching in mirth. "You really think so?" "Yeah, it was really flowy," Izuku complimented. "Is that what you were going for?" Sasara nodded. "Yep, I wanted to be capable of switching between fighting styles on the fly. In case you needed to swap to a different weapon in the middle of a fight." "Smart girl. Namiri-sensei." Having just noticed the pro-heroine since she was not only out of uniform but also her attention had been focused on Izuku. "What are you doing here?" Guarding Midoriya-kun as he goes shopping, though I admit I'm surprised you know him, Graham-chan. Also, if you don't mind my asking, why don't you have your father's surname? Brock answered that one. Dwarven tradition, a child when born, if a lad takes the father's last name. If a lass, it takes their mother's. Nemuri nodded. I see, thank you Brock-san. Think nothin' of it, lass. Did something the case catch your eye? You been over there a while? Brock said as he toddled over. He noticed Nemuri was looking at a silver chain pendant that had a square-cut 1-carat piece of aquamarine on the end along with a teardrop-shaped piece of bloodstone set into it. You're born in March, I take it? Yes, Nemuri said with a slight nod. Izuku took a look at it. How much for the pendant? I told you already, if you need something, just take it, lad, Brock said before he sighed. We both know you're not gonna do that though. Are you and Sensei D-dating? Sasara asked, a blush staining her face as she pointed at the two. Not exactly, Sasara-chan. I am in Izukuin's HRM though, Nemuri purred. HRM. Why was I not told there was a HRM? Zuzu, when were you going to invite me into said HRM? In fact, why have I not received my invitation yet? Sasara said as she slowly began to unsheath Amaterasu, a dark gleam in her eyes as she sported a grin that looked like it was carved with a knife on her face. It's not really up to me who joins, it's up to Mina-chan. Izuku said. Who's Mina-chan? Sasara said with her hands on her hips. My best friend, Izuku replied as he picked up the locket. Sasara pouted, and muttered under her breath. Just what am I, chopped liver? Don't be like that, Sasara-chan. I consider you a friend, but until you kissed me, I didn't even know you liked me like that. Mina-chan and I just clicked. This was during the weirdest week of my life. The kobold dwarf pouted, her arms crossed, but she nodded. Fine, I'll talk to her at some point, I guess. Izuku picked up the necklace and held it in his palm before looking at Nemuri for a moment and saying, enchant item, Grand Mage Armor, MSCSM, Message, SDSM, Word of Recall. The magic circle glowed all manner of colors beneath his palm before fading away. He then held it out to Nemuri, who, because she was half a head taller than him, bent down and pulled her hair aside before she asked, put it on me? Sure. He gently clasped it around the pro-heroine's neck and she could feel it thrum slightly as if it was charged with electricity, once it sat against her skin. It grants you invisible armor, the ability to send me short messages. If you are hurt or hurt someone else, you get lucky while in the fight, and should you get knocked out, you'll be sent to Mustafu General Hospital. He then scanned the jewelry, asking, I'm going to need several more necklaces also. Sasara, what's your ring size? I'm a 3. Aries, right, so March means aquamarine for you too. Mina-chan told me her birthday was at the end of July, though I can't remember the exact date. Either way, I'd need something with a ruby. I don't even know what AI-chan, Benny-chan, or any of the others would like. Does that include MIAA-chan and Poppy too? My life is confusing. Easy loverboy, Nemuri said, patting his back. You don't need to go buying everyone jewelry all at once. I just don't want it to look like I'm showing anyone preferential treatment. Izuku saw how good the necklace actually looked on her. That looks good on you, by the way. The heroine beamed. Why, thank you. How about this? You take some jewelry home with you, you enchant it for Brock-san, give it back to him to sell, then come back with the other girls another time and get something nice for each of them. That way, you feel like you're helping and you get something to practice on. A fine idea there, lass. Brock said, picking out trinkets, rings, necklaces, earrings, and the like, but not before he wrote down the price of each item. The total came to 300,000 yen. And before he left the store, he picked up a Pisces-shaped size 3 ring that had a diamond for one fish and obsidian for another as he enchanted it. Enchant item, Resurrection. Izuku took a knee this time, but it was rather ironic as he felt the bag of diamonds lighten ever so slightly. Sasara, come here please. The swordswoman slowly approached. Zuzu, are you alright? She asked worriedly. He smiled, "I'll be alright, don't worry, I just need to go get more seeds from Mrs. Polinia. The nice dried down the street. I'll go right now." She almost raced out of the room only for Izuku to grab her hand. "Wait. Wait just a moment, Sasara-chan." Izuku begged. She stopped dead when she heard the suffix he added to her name. "Okay," she said in a small soft voice, but inside her head she was squealing. Daintily taking her hand, he slipped the ring onto her ring finger. "You can't go without this." Darting forward, she captured Izuku's lips for the second time that day, then she was a blur of motion as she ran out the front door. "You have a way with women, Izu-chan," Namuri said with a chuckle in her tone. Namuri glanced at him sideways as they walked down Monster Alley. "Are you sure you don't need help carrying any of that?" "No, I've got it, it just looks heavy," Izuku assured the pro hero as he carried 3 large cardboard boxes, all of which were full of packets of sakura tree seeds. With 100 bags to a box, with 100 seeds to a bag, Izuku figured he had 37,500 years worth of life energy at his disposal. He had to buy out everything the nice dryad woman Mrs. Polinia had in stock for the month, but it would get him far. He paid her back by healing her personal tree that grew behind her shop. It was an ancient full-moon maple that looked sickly. He infused it with life energy, bringing it back to vibrant bloom, its leaves a deep bloody crimson. Mrs. Polinia, who had rough wrinkled skin that looked like bark, her hair like a cascade of flowering vines akin to morning glories, as she thanked him profusely. "I promise to save all my sakura seeds for you from now on, Izuku-sama," she told him in thanks. "That was nice of you to do," Namuri commented as she sent a text on her phone. Izuku did his best to shrug with the boxes in his arms. "It's my job as an archlich to help monsters in trouble. It's hardly different from your own hero work." Seeing the egg seller from earlier was still being overburdened by Lamia, he decided to step in for their sake. "Speaking of okay ladies, let's form an orderly line please." The Lamia turned as one and bowed, doing as ordered. One looked up and waved bashfully. "Hey Izuku-sama. Maya-san." "Ah, that is you," he said happily. "I haven't seen you in a while, how've you been?" The red-scaled snake woman made her way over, a reed-woven basket in hand. "I'm well, thank you." Seeing Namuri and the boxes in his hands, she asked, "Shopping yourself?" "Hello Midnight." "Yes, I needed to pick up some reagents and other things." The pro-heroine sent her a wink. "It's just Namuri when I'm not in costume, kiddo." Maya nodded. "Namuri-san then, how are you?" Maya said with a smile as she wrapped her tail around her. "Can't complain," Namuri said with a smile. Maya then got wide-eyed over the necklace laying against her neck. "Oh, where did you get that? Your boyfriend?" "I dunno, are we dating, Izuku-kun?" Midnight said as she nudged him playfully in the shoulder. Due to suddenly being put on the spot, the archlich muttered. I guess so." His mumbling caused the girls to laugh. "He's so shy." Maya commented. "He is, but it's cute." Midnight commented before she smiled as she fingered her necklace and added. "He talked about wanting to get you something like this sometime." Maya flushed a bit before she looked at Izuku nervously. "Did he now?" I wouldn't mind that." Even though Izuku didn't need to breathe, he managed to cough a little bit and say, Anyway, we should be going, Maya, it was nice seeing you." The Lamia waved at him. "You too, Izuku-sama. We should all get together again sometime, that was fun, wasn't it?" Izuku nodded. "It was. I'll talk with Mina about another get-together." Maya smiled widely. "Great. I'll see you around, Izuku-sama." The two departed, and Namuri nudged Izuku in the side as they walked. "She's interested." "Why you think so?" Izuku questioned. Namuri nodded. "I know so, she's just being cautious. Call it women's intuition, but I know she has a thing for you," she said as the two made their way into Spinnerets. The Arachne-run shop was filled with all manner of clothing, every piece crafted out of spider silk. Whole outfits stood on mannequins and the interior of the shop was neither too hot nor too cold, as Arachne were sensitive to changes in temperature. The Arachne behind the counter was wearing a green kimono covered in spider web designs. She bowed politely to her customers. Welcome to Spinneret's honored customers, she bowed lower when she noticed Izuku. Archlich-sama, how may this one assist you? I'm here for new clothes, Penelope-san. Izuku said, introducing himself with a bow. Izu-chan. The Arachne said, surprised. By the great weaver Annecy, it is you, dear boy, the shop owner said as she made her way over, her feet clicking on the wooden floor as she marveled over Izuku's transformation. All 8 of her eyes on her head looked him up and down. She then placed her clawed hands upon his shoulders. You foolish boy. Doing something so reckless. Why, I've half a mind to tie you up and prevent you from leaving just so I know you'll be safe. Please don't, ma'am, that would make my job amusing, but difficult, Midnight said with a chuckle. Pro-hero Midnight, Penelope bowed. Welcome to my humble shop. The out-of-costume heroine nodded. It's a pleasure to be here. Do you make all of this yourself? Nemuri inquired. Most of the time, the girls who apprentice under me also help, Penelope added. Penelope is a MSTR weaver of silk. Her kimonos sell for a lot. Izuku added. The Arachne bowed, you honor me, Izuku-sama. We do more than just kimonos here, as you well know. She motioned to the side. My shop specializes in clothes for monsters and we also sell excess silk to certain hero companies that use it to create support items. Interesting, Nemuri commented. So say I wanted a WHP made out of your silk. Fufufu, Penelope chuckled. I think I like you, Midnight-san, turning to Izuku she said, but, you're here for clothes, yes? Izuku suddenly felt a chill run down his spine, despite being undead. He gave a nervous jerky nod. Yes. Penelope smirked, which did nothing to ease Izuku's trepidation as she stretched out a strand of silk. Well then, first we need to take some measurements. I knew I had a bad feeling about this for a reason, Izuku thought to himself as he tried on the 13th outfit for Nemuri-san, since Penelope took his measurements, which he was fairly certain didn't involve being tied up so much. Releasing a mental sigh, he stepped out of the dressing room wearing a chain-studded shirt, with torn charcoal-washed pants, and steel-toed boots with spikes coming out the top. He kept his favorite jacket as it was a gift from the Ishidos. I like it, it suits you, Han, Nemuri said, licking her lips a little as she looked him up and down. Penelope gave a curt nod of approval. Indeed it suits your taste, Izuku-sama, and, like all the garments made in this shop, have been crafted from Arachne silk. With bits of metal coming from Ivaldi and Sons across the way. It's nice to hear people working together like this, Izuku smiled, his grin rictus-like yet his tone conveying warmth. We have to, Izuku-sama, few humans will buy our wares, and those that do will tax us heavily, Penelope informed him, her face dour. It's why all the monster-run shops are crammed into this one alley as well. We are stronger, safer together than we are separately. Izuku stroked his non-existent beard in thought. Will I have to speak to someone in the government about this, Penelope-san? The Arachne seemed down. I doubt it would do any good, Izuku-sama, the government does not look on us favorably with few exceptions. We ran into a satyr who was running a record store earlier, Izuku muttered to himself. He is likely either from a well-off family, to get a permit to somehow own a business outside of Monster Alley, or doubles as an informant for the Public Safety Commission. Those types of people usually do. Public Safety Commission, huh? Midnight had her own question, what about people like Allure? Penelope sighed in resignation as if she knew this question was coming. She's trying, as is Sasara-chan, but there are too few monster heroes and they get pushback from the general populace even so. She then paused before bowing 18+ only heroine's direction. It helps greatly that you took her on as your partner, Midnight-san. It shows that we can be accepted if a famous heroine like yourself does so, and it does much to change people's opinions of us if a heroine of your status is willing to take one of our people as your partner in heroics. She bowed respectfully to the heroine who looked abashed. It means so much to us, thank you. You don't need to thank me, I took her on based on her own merits. She had great compatibility with me, it wasn't about her being a monster or not, Namuri denied, waving her hands in front of herself. She didn't mention how the girl was suffering from a broken heart and she felt Kurumu needed a helping hand. One she was all too happy to provide. Izuku silently appreciated Namuri Kamaya all the more in this moment. She's such a good person. She didn't even think twice about taking a monster into her agency. Namuri-san really is a kind sweet woman. Love you too, Han, Namuri replied, blowing him a kiss, while letting him know he had thought aloud again. Damn it, Izuku cursed to himself. The tinkling of the doorbell at the front of the shop drew everyone's attention. The man who entered the shop was slim and tall with narrow regal features and long straight blonde hair and golden eyes that could hardly be seen due to his squinting, giving him a fox-like appearance. He wore an all-black formal business suit that was personalized with golden flames around the cuffs on the suit jacket. Something about this man immediately put Namuri on edge, and she instinctively stepped in front of Izuku to protect him from harm, preparing to lift the sleeve of her suit jacket in case she needed to use her quirk. Instead, however, the man stopped in front of Izuku and bowed low at the waist. Greetings, Archlich Dano, it is an honor for this lowly one to make your acquaintance. Rise, and introduce yourself properly, Izuku said after getting over the surprise at this sudden turn of events. Doing so, the man put one hand on his chest and spoke again. This one's name is Q. It is an honor to meet your illustrious self, Archlich Dano. And you as well, Q-san, can I help you with something? Izuku asked, silently wondering what this. He forced some life energy into his eyes and looked at this new person, surprised to find himself looking at a seven-tailed kitsune of all things. I came across some information I thought might be of use to you, Archlich Dano. What kind of information? Namuri asked, her finely honed senses as a heroine were now abuzz. The blonde man glared at her. I was not speaking to you, human, but Archlich Dano, this is a problem of monsters, and thus should be handled by the Lord of Monsters. Silence. Izuku spoke one word, his voice awash with power, and the world obeyed. Kyo suddenly found his tongue stuck to the roof of his mouth as Izuku continued, Kyo-san, you have no right to speak to her or any human in such a manner. Also, for the record, though she is off duty and out of costume at the moment, Namuri-san is a renowned heroine, I expect you to treat her respectfully in the future. That said, speak and tell me this information. If I deem it necessary, I shall involve the proper authorities. Namuri was silently impressed at how seamlessly Izuku had woven a spell into his little speech just then, and touched at how he'd stood up for her, yet she pushed that into the back of her mind when the man began to speak. Yes, Archlich Dano, my apologies. As to the information, if you truly wish to know what happened 5 years ago, with the advent of all of the monsters, it all leads back to one individual and his inability to properly balance and maintain his affections between his wives. You may wish to speak to Issa Shuzen. Issa Shuzen? Any relation to Kaluya Shuzen? Izuku inquired, his mind briefly flicking to the bronze-skinned vampiress. His eldest daughter, M-Lord. Q bowed. Izuku nodded while digesting this information. I see, is there anything else? Just that should you confront him, you should be careful. In the absence of the archliches like yourself, the vampires have become haughty, thinking themselves superior to any other yokai. You may need to remind Issa Shuzen why the archliches are the god kings of yokais. I see. You've given me much to think about, Q-san, thank you. Izuku honored the kitsune by giving him a bow of his own, not that he realized it at the time. The honor is mine, Archlich Dano, if it pleases you I shall take my leave now. Go Kyuyo and pleasant travels. Izuku replied, before the kitsune disappeared in a flash of blue fire. Aizu, what are you going to do about this? Do you even trust that guy at his word? Namuri asked. He seemed, well, forgive the pun, sly and cunning like a fox. That is typical of a kitsune. They always seem like they're planning something even when they're not, Penelope noted, crossing her arms. I'd take his news with at least a grain of salt, Izu-chan. Crossing his arms, Izuku silently took in their counsel, before he spoke. He could be lying, he admitted, at the very least he's not telling the whole truth, but he wasn't completely lying either. Izuku took an actual breath just so he could sigh, which means I'll need to talk to Kokoa and Kalo-chan's father to get to the bottom of this. Turning to the Arachne he said, can you ring up our things, Penelope-san? I've had my fill of shopping for today. Seeing the MSTR Weaver open her mouth to protest, he continued in a resigned tone, if you're just going to say you'll give it to me, then allow me to barter for it. Send some extra clothes or bolts of silk home with me and allow me to enchant it. The owner snapped her mouth shut for a moment before bowing, that is most kind of you, Izu-chan, I mean Archlich Dano. Penelope-san, could you please keep calling me Izu-chan, he requested. I'd like it if at least my friends were familiar with me. In response, the Arachne reached out and ruffled his hair. Okay, Izu-chan, but no more dying any. Or I'll have you tied up in shibori style for a week. The scary part was, Izuku couldn't tell if she was kidding or not. So he nodded in fear, causing Penelope to smile. Good, now can I get you anything else, honored customer? Scanning the store, Izuku saw something he just had to get. Pointing at it, he said, I'll take that, and can I have it gift wrapped please? Can do. Who's the lucky girl? Penelope asked as she moved to wrap his purchase. The Archlich's bashful silence made both of the older women laugh. Both Izuku and Nemuri's arms were full of parcels when they entered the Midoriya residence. The moment he entered he felt it. Bloodlust, and it was being directed at him. He stood stock still for a moment, surprised to feel such a thing in his own home, especially since it was directed at him. Looking out from behind a small mountain of bags and boxes, he found his mother serving tea to the last person he expected to see so soon. Son, look who came to see you. Inko said, a smile on her face. Mina. He mumbled, unsure why she was giving him such a knife-edged grin. Hey Midori, we need to talk, privately. Can we go to your room? Mina didn't even really bother with a hello to him and seemed to completely ignore Midnight, who was in her civvies. As sure, the undead teen quickly replied, unsure as to what he'd done to upset Mina. I need to get this stuff to my room anyway. I'll help you. Mina hopped off the couch and grabbed half the boxes in his hands, allowing him to more easily make his way to his room. It seemed that whatever had made her mad hadn't diminished her helpful nature. What did I do? Izuku wondered as he led the way to his room, which was feeling more like a death march with every passing second. The slam of his door sounded like a death knell to his ears as he placed the parcels on his now empty desk. He then slowly turned to see Mina glaring at him, her arms crossed. What did I do to upset you, Mina-chan? Idiot. She suddenly whacked him on top of her head with her fist. What was that for? Izuku asked, unfazed by the blow. Sasara hit a lot harder than she did. Hell, getting hit with a prehistoric computer hurt more. For turning down Nizu-sensei's offer to join Yui, you idiot. Then not only do you turn him down but you have him offer me your scholarship. Mina was blushing green in embarrassment at this point. Did you forget how bad my grades were, dummy? He can't just offer anyone a scholarship, especially not an idiot like me. Mina, you are not an idiot, Izuku said forcefully. You're right, I'm not. You are for turning him down. What were you thinking? Mina asked, while giving her not-quite boyfriend a shove. I figured I'd be too busy doing Archlich stuff to also do heroics. Izuku replied honestly. Drawing a hand down her face, Mina said, idiot, there's a reason hero agencies exist. You can sign up for the hero course and also take business classes. Okay. He didn't see the connection. Okay, why so? In order to do the business part, you need to, well, run a business. For you, doing Archlich stuff could be the business. Meaning I could do both. Izuku said, finally catching on, but I'd need more than just me, I'd need other things like a secretary. Ahem, Mina cleared her throat and sent him a mild glare. You're kidding, right? That earned him a punch in the shoulder. Okay, but you know that means you'll have to take the business course on top of the hero course too, right? Midori, my dad is the chief of police in Chiba. I know how things like a company structure, reports, and chain of command are supposed to work. I guess, but I think this is a bit more complicated than you realize, Mina-chan. She suddenly wrapped her hand in his, smiling before softly saying, we'll figure it out, together. Right, Midori? He looked down at their connected hands, then back up into her smiling face, before he returned her smile with a rictus grin of his own. Yeah, we will. What was coming next made him nervous. Whilih have you here, Mina-chan, I need to ask you something. Okay, go for it, Midori. Seeing how jittery he was, she advised, take a breath and calm down first. Izuku took a breath he didn't need and let it out before he continued, still staring in her eyes, would you like to go out with me? Mina smiled so wide her eyes closed, and cocking her head to the side she said, as in a date. Yes, he replied in the most serious tone he could muster. Mina threw her arms around him as she laughed. I thought you'd never ask. I'd love to. He happily returned the hug, and even spun her around once or twice before setting her back on her feet, where she seemed to bounce from foot to foot in her excitement. I met with some old friends who chewed me out for the whole dying thing today. Mina's bumble-colored eyes widened when she heard that. Oh. Well, good. You deserve it. He sheepishly ducked his head before he started unpacking his things, making sure his back was to her before he continued. Yeah, I guess. One of them expressed interest in this whole HRM thing. Ah, cool. I can't be the only one who has to put up with all your crazy, Mina laughed. I could use some backup beating common sense into you, Midori. Izuku spun on his heel, staring at the pink alien. So you're really okay with it? Dude, you're a monster. Polygamy is a commonly accepted practice. As long as they know I'm the legal wife, it's fine, Mina growled at the end. Illegal wife? Mina-chan. Izuku was thrown for a loop. Putting her hands on her hips, she half glared at him. I stood up to my dad for us, Midori. If that doesn't tell you I'm into you, I don't know what will. We just kinda click, you know. I'm not willing to let you go now that I decided I like you. She gave him a CC malicious smirk, you're mine now, loverboy. Now forever and always, whether you like it or not, dude. Izuku gulped, yet he didn't seem to mind that too much. Well, since we're going to be dating, he went through the packages he got today until he came out with a gift-wrapped box from Penelope's. This is for you. Not even been on one date and you already got me a present. Mina said to herself, looking down at the yellow silk bow-wrapped black box that she held in her hands. You're too kind, Midori. Don't say that till you open it. Go on, he urged. Gently pulling off the bow, Mina did just that, and pulling off the lid, she let out a scream of glee. For in the box was a pink silk kimono, embroidered with purple butterflies. It's appealing, Midori, this must have cost you a fortune. I can't accept this. Mina tried pushing it away, only for the lich to force it onto her chest. Mina-chan, you, without needing to, helped me in my darkest hour. When it seemed like no one cared about me, you, a total stranger, helped me see that people can and do care about me. This is nothing but a token of the love and appreciation I feel for you, because I feel like I can't express it properly. The box hit the floor with an almost silent clatter as Mina cupped Midoriya's face with both hands before she kissed him. It was long, slow, and lingering. When she finally pulled away, it was because she needed to breathe. Why were you crying, Mina-chan? Was it something I said? Izuku asked worriedly as he gently wiped away her tears with a swipe of his finger, afraid he'd somehow screwed this up. Midori, what happened to you was horrible and shouldn't have happened. You're amazingly loving, courageous, and kind. It pisses me off just thinking about it. Yet I also think, if it didn't, we never wouldn't have met, and then I feel guilty and selfish. Am I a bad person? No, you're my Mina and that's all I could ask for, Izuku said gently. Mina rested her head on his shoulder, the tips of her horns pressing into his collarbone. I could get used to being called that. By your given name? I do that all the time. Looking up at him and giving him a love-filled look, Mina replied, being called yours dummy. Oh well, if you're okay with it. She laughed and tackled him onto his futon, which was just a bare mattress as he forgot to put it away earlier. Laying on top of him she said quietly, yeah, I think I'm fine with it. Tilting her head up to look at him, she inquired, so we're agreed you're going to Yui then? I'll do both the hero and business course if you will, Izuku relented at last, knowing there was no point in arguing with his empress. It's a deal, Midori, Mina promised, burying her head into his chest so she couldn't see her victorious smile. The sound of the door opening made both of the teens freeze. Mina-chan, what were you yelling about? Midoriya paused in the doorway for a moment, looked at the scene before her before she called out into the hallway, Namuri, do you happen to have a condom? I think my son might need it. MOM. Izuku yelled. Oh ho. Namuri popped her head in the room with a sly cat smile on her face before she gave Izuku a thumbs up, with a twinkle in her eye. You move fast. Nice going Izu, but remember, she tossed him a small plastic square. Safety first. We weren't doing anything like, Izuku began only for Mina to cut him off. Got any bigger ones, Namuri-sensei? I don't think any of these'll fit Midori. Mina asked with a Cheshire grin of her own. Mina, not helping. The heroine rummaged through her purse. I've only got human-sized ones. I hear they have monster-sized ones starting at orc and ending at dragon size, but I never had the need to buy any. DMN, Mina sighed, before getting off her bow. Looks like we'll have to wait, Midori, till you can get some proper protection. You're both evil enough to be villains, I hope you know this. The lich deadpanned before glancing at his mother, who was looking like she was somewhere between passing out from embarrassment and laughter at his expense. ET2 mother. I'm sorry son, for a moment there I thought I walked in on something, then I remembered our earlier conversation and figured if anyone would have protection on hand, it would be the 18+ only heroine. She was right too, Namuri added. Inko continued as if she hadn't been interrupted. I didn't expect her and Mina to turn it into a Boke and Tsukomi routine. Mina bowed. Thank you, we'll be here all week. Wait, am I the Boku or the Tsukomi? I have good news, Mina agreed to go on a date with me. That's great son. Inko teared up as she gave her undead son a hug. What he meant to say is I'm his girlfriend. Mina corrected, elbowing her boyfriend in the ribs and giving him a sideways look. The waterworks were in full effect now. Even better. This calls for Katsudan. I'll get started right away, she said before she rushed out of the room. You know, Namuri began leaning provocatively against the doorframe. You're not the only one who wants a piece of him. Sensei, Mina rolled her eyes and crossed her arms. I know you want him, hell he called you two vampires, and Mia-senpai his concubines. I'm just the legal wife so we're clear. Crystal. You've got moxie for one so young, Mina. I look forward to being your teacher next year. She walked away with a sachet in her hips before she turned back and winked at Izuku. I had fun today, Izu, thanks again for the necklace. I think I'll go help your mother with dinner. The women in my life will be the death of me, Izuku thought. But what a way to go, huh? Mina replied, giving him a smirk. Sigh at his continued failure to control his thought projection, Izuku continued, I guess. Anyway, since you're serious about this company thing, I think I got a lead on our first case. Really? Sweet dude, tell me over dinner. But we also need a name for our business. Mina thought aloud. If it isn't too presumptuous, how about Archlich Investigations? Izuku offered bashfully. Midori, Mina began making him flinch, thinking she was going to tell him his idea was dumb, much like Bakugo always did. Now, he knew Mina wasn't Bakugo, but a decade of ingrained behavior couldn't be unlearned overnight. That's perfect. Mina cheered. It rolls off the tongue and everything and lets people know exactly what they're getting with 2 simple words. Nice one. Thanks. Do you really like it? He asked, making sure she wasn't just humoring him. Totally dude. Say, why don't we get your room together while we wait for dinner? Mina suggested. That'd be great. That's exactly what they did. The 2 friends, now becoming even more than that, and having dreams for the future, were prepared to walk down the long path called life together, but that path was fraught with peril, and was long and winding. This case was just the first bump in the long, long road. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for more crossovers. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Bubbajack on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.